My partner is saying that he's considering ending our relationship all because of my salary, saying that I'm not making enough money and that he feels like I'm not doing enough, despite the fact that I've stepped up in so many ways and truly invested a lot of time into this relationship. And right now, I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. My partner and I have been together for many years, and recently things have been improving. We were more stable, we were fighting less, and we were communicating better. I had just started to feel secure in the relationship and less afraid that he might leave me. Well, during a recent fight, he actually told me that he's been thinking about ending the relationship because I don't want to increase my income. For reference, I make about $52,000 a year. In contrast, he makes about $115,000 a year. I've always split bills and paid for all of my own expenses. Over the years, I paid off about $60,000 in debt, contributed to retirement savings, and I have excellent credit. So basically, I am financially responsible. I am simply not highly career ambitious, and I'm genuinely content with my job. He wants a partner who earns significantly more money and who wants to continue living in Seattle, which is very expensive. I mean, I would personally prefer a smaller or more affordable city, but I have accepted staying here because being together matters more to me than optimizing location or our income. What hurt the most was not just the discussion about income. It was that he framed it as something that might lead him to end the relationship. I see him as my closest family. I mean, I've invested deeply into this relationship. So when he links the future of our relationship to my salary, I feel reduced to a number rather than valued as a person. He may see this as some kind of long-term ambition and compatibility alignment, but I see it as being asked to change something fundamental about myself in order to be enough. How do I evaluate whether this is a fundamental values mismatch versus something that can be negotiated? And why would income feel like a deal breaker to someone when the partner is financially responsible and contributing fairly? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, and holy crap, this is just my opinion, it kind of seems like he's making a mountain out of a molehill by trying to be like, wow, I think I need to break up with you because you're not making enough. Like, this almost seems like an excuse to break up as opposed to some kind of real concern. Because you said it yourself, you're literally contributing to all of your expenses. You're paying your fair share, you've never complained about it, you have good credit, and you're getting out of debt. So for him to be like, oh man, you're not doing enough, you're not willing to make more money, that just seems weird and just very, very out of the ordinary. So hopefully things work out for you and you're able to find some kind of resolution for this, because as far as I can see, it's not really looking good. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My best friend for the past 30 years decides at the last second not to attend my wedding, putting me in a situation that honestly has broken my heart and really frustrated me, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's how it all happened. Okay, for a bit of context, and this will be crucial, I'm a 35-year-old female and I've been friends, or at least was friends, with my best friend for over 30 years. We went through kindergarten, school, high school, and even when we chose different universities, we remained friends through thick and thin. During this last, let's say 7 years, she's been sharing with me her struggles with anxiety, and so much of our relationship has been revolving around what could help her feel better. And I also was trying to be careful with words, because she tends to demonize the friends that try to help her if what they are saying doesn't meet what she thinks. Well, this last year in October, I was getting married to my then boyfriend of 10 years, and the both of us also have a daughter who's 6 years old. Now, it was a very important step for us, not only because we love each other, but because I've also been quite ill ever since 2018. It was a living nightmare, and I did not want to get married in the state that I was in. I was really weak and I was really thin. And I say that just so you guys can understand it was not a minor thing. But still, I'm getting better and better every step of the way, and I was really happy because I could actually walk myself normally to the altar. When we broke the news, everybody around us was happy, not just because of the wedding, but because they knew that meant I was getting better and stronger for me and my family. Now, when I say everybody was happy, I definitely do not include my friend. She wasn't. She offered us a poker face and acted as if it was something minor, with her being like, oh, why now? You already have a daughter with him, it's not a big deal. Even going as far as questioning me and asking if I was sure. But it's okay, I've been with this man for 10 years, he's taking care of me and staying by my side and helping me, so yeah, I want to be with him. And then through the wedding process of getting the dress, some flowers, etc., she was present, but I could feel something was off. She then told me that she will probably leave the wedding party soon, all because she has flat feet. Now, Now, when she said this, I was shocked, and I can only answer by saying, well, you know who else has flat feet? The bride. But for some reason, I just let it slide, thinking it was possibly related to her anxiety more than her feet or my wedding. Then she told me she did not want to throw me a bachelorette party. For reference, some of my friends were asking her to do it as a surprise because we were so close. She told me she was not comfortable doing it, that it was too much for her, and that she was prioritizing herself because she didn't have the time or will to do it. And honestly, I didn't really take it well because she always puts herself first. It doesn't matter if you need help or if you share big news. There always seemed to be a way to make things all about her. And you know what? Even I felt bad and utterly sad. She wasn't willing to put me first, like not even then. I decided it was best to tell her, okay, it's alright, you shouldn't feel bad about this. I mean, she did offer to take me dinner one night, just the two of us, but that never happened either. And then she didn't come to my birthday celebration because her roommate had friends over that night, and that happened also a year ago. I've gotta say, she's always sort of like preferred plans that were just the two of us, and she didn't like me getting close to her other friends, so I could not really try to join them either. But then came the real shocker. 3 months before the wedding, she sent me the following text message through WhatsApp. She said to me, "Hey Chicken Nugget, I've been thinking about your wedding thing, and I'm not gonna be there because I don't feel comfortable. I've noticed a distance growing between us for a while now. Some things just aren't working anymore, and I think we're on different paths. It's not easy for me to write this, and I'm really sad, but the best thing for me right now is for us to go our separate ways. I hope everything goes well for you and that you're very happy." Now, when I saw this, I was livid, and so was my boyfriend. This text came in a Thursday, and the prior Sunday, we invited her to eat out with my family, and we spoke every day for like 2 days for the past 30 years. So I really do not understand what she was saying. My boyfriend was also sad. She used to come to our home to eat or like have dinner, and would stay the whole day, and she usually wore my boyfriend's comfy clothing because he's tall, and he always happily shared with her. So for him, he was also sad, since by this point, he also considered her a friend. Now, I haven't replied to the message, and a lot of my friends are advising me to reply and tell her what I think. The problem is, I don't even know what to think about it, nor do I even understand what happened. I'm also not even sure if she's gonna care about this or even read it. My loved ones insist that the message she sent was a way of not letting me answer, as it was such a closed message, which was not fair. And I see their point because I also felt that way. It was very hard at first, but I decided with the help of my loved ones to just focus on myself and the big day so it won't be ruined. And I'm glad I did that because, to be completely honest, I've been putting her first so much in my life, and it felt good to be kind to myself. Also, lots of friends and even family have been reaching out to me and telling me they always thought there was something weird and that they felt there was some kind of distance from her and me. And I feel quite bad about that too. I also think that that's what hurts the most. Not that she betrayed my unconditional friendship as if I did something wrong, but the fact that I've spent all this time unknowingly not being there for my people simply because I was focused on her and her anxiety and all of her needs. They deserve more from me. So as you can see, I'm not perfect in this situation either, although I've made the determination to be better for them, and I'm honestly keeping that promise. I don't understand what happened, not in the slightest, and it still kind of breaks my heart because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, your best friend is being super toxic right now. They're clearly like jealous that you're getting married or something, which is strange because wouldn't you like want to be supportive of your best friend when they're like making a big step? Especially with the original poster. Apparently they've been like struggling with an illness that's been really frustrating for them, and they've had a terrible time dealing with it. Like, I can't believe the original poster's best friend would act like that. But I also want to say that the person they're describing sounds obnoxious. Like seriously, they make it all about themselves all the time. Like, holy crap, what's uncomfortable about going to your friend's wedding? That sounds like a load of garbage if you ask me. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, what, are you just anxious and that's why you don't want to be there? And now you're choosing yourself, I gotta take care of me? Like, that is a huge cop-out in my opinion. There's absolutely not a leg to stand on with that. And if anything, it's just showing how entitled and selfish she is. Like, that's super dumb. So yeah, I think it was very smart to focus on yourself. That really is the best choice in my opinion. Because your best friend clearly didn't feel the same way about you and was happy to throw you by the wayside. And that really sucks, and you don't deserve that. My boyfriend's entitled mother literally showed up to my apartment just to try and inspect it, all before he's allowed to move in with me. And honestly, this has really kind of creeped me out, and I'm kind of questioning my entire relationship at this point. Here's how it all happened. Okay, so my boyfriend, who I will call Jake for the sake of the story, has been with me for almost 2 years, and we recently decided he's going to move into my apartment. And that's right, it's my apartment, you know, the one that I pay for, which is the very place I've lived in alone for almost 3 years. And the last bit of like crucial context context here is that Jake is 26 years old. Now, I found out last Thursday when my neighbor texted me saying there was a woman in the hallway taking pictures of the building entrance and asking other tenants questions about noise levels and what kind of people live here. I came home on my lunch break and she was literally standing in my hallway with a notepad. His mom introduced herself very warmly, said Jake had mentioned the move and she just wanted to see where her son would be living, before things got too far along. She then asked if she could come inside to check the layout and I said no. And when I said that, she looked genuinely surprised, like that was an unreasonable response. She then told me that she had concerns about the neighborhood and wanted to discuss house rules in case Jake moves in, including whether I would be okay with her having a spare key for visits. I told her this wasn't something we were going to discuss at my front door, without Jake present, and that showing up unannounced to evaluate my home was not something I was comfortable with. She finally left, but texted Jake that I was hostile and that she thinks we're rushing things. Jake then apologized and said that she does stuff like this, but he looked genuinely embarrassed. Now, I like Jake a lot, but the idea that his mom sees my home as a space she gets veto power over is honestly making me rethink the whole timeline of this move, because right now I'm not sure where to go from here. Okay, this is some really stupid stuff. Are you kidding me right now? The fact that she felt emboldened to come over there and be like, okay, I need to search your apartment. Like, that is a huge red flag. What is going on right now? And also, why is Jake, not freaking out over this? Instead, he's almost, apologizing and being like, yeah, my mom does that sometimes. Sorry about that. And it's like, bro, is that a peek into the future? Is she gonna do this if you guys get married or if you go on a honeymoon? Like, what is happening? That is some grade A crazy if you ask me, and that is absolutely inappropriate. So when the original poster says, yeah, I'm kind of questioning my relationship with this guy, if I'm being completely honest, I totally understand where you're coming from, because it seriously sounds like Jake is still under his mom's thumb, and that is really unfortunate. Am I the jerk for screaming at my new neighbor after she literally hosed down my 6-year-old daughter who was making chalk drawings on our driveway? Because right now I'm still super pissed off about this, but I just don't know what to do. Here's how it all happened. Okay, for starters, I have a 6-year-old daughter. My kid is super quiet, and her absolute favorite thing to do is draw with chalk on our driveway, and she also never goes near the property line. Last week, a new neighbor moved in next door, and this neighbor seems to hate noise and children. Well, yesterday, my daughter was drawing a big rainbow on our driveway, and the neighbor marched over and told me that my kid needs to stop using chalk right away because apparently the chalk dust is floating over and ruining the paint job on her new car. I told the neighbor that is literally impossible. I mean, her car is parked way over on her side, and my daughter is just playing in her own space. But the neighbor rolled her eyes and stomped off. And seriously, I thought that was the end of it, but holy crap, I was wrong. Today I was sitting on the porch watching my kid draw when suddenly the neighbor comes out with a garden hose. Without a single word, she points it directly at our driveway and turns it on full blast. The water completely washed away my daughter's drawing, and it soaked her shoes and pants. And of course, my kid started crying immediately. Well, I saw this lady do this, so I ran over and I screamed at her. The neighbor just smirked and said she was cleaning the dust off her property, and if my daughter got in the way, that's my fault for not controlling my kid. I then called my neighbor an entitled bully, and I told her to stay away from my family or I would call the police. The neighbor then retreated, but later she posted on our neighborhood Facebook group saying that I'm a hysterical neighbor who lets my kid vandalize the street. Some neighbors who were not there are now taking her side because the neighbor played the victim so well. Now, my husband thinks that I should have handled this a little bit more calmly since he argues the neighbors knew. But seriously, this lady left my kids soaking wet and crying. So am I the jerk for screaming at this lady? Because right now I'm still very pissed off about this. Okay, dude, I can't believe that you didn't call the police on this. This is completely over the line. I don't care who you are. You can't just spray water at some kid playing on their driveway. Like, in no situation is this ever going to be okay. So yeah, your husband's an idiot for not taking your side, and that lady's out of her mind for thinking, oh wow, if you can't control your kid, you're a bad parent. How about you're a piece of crap for spraying a hose at a child? Like, what's wrong with you? So no, you're not the jerk, but you will be the jerk if you don't do something about this. Because in my opinion, this goes far beyond having some kind of entitled neighbor, and I think some more serious action absolutely needs to be taken. Am I the jerk for wearing jeans to a fancy family dinner after my mom destroyed the dress I spent months making for said dinner? Because right now I'm very pissed off about this and I'm just not sure what to do from here. Here's how it happened. So I'm a 20-year-old female and I love to sew. It's my favorite hobby and it really helps me deal with stress. We had a huge family reunion dinner last weekend for my grandparents' 50th anniversary and everyone was supposed to dress up nice. But in preparation for this, I decided to make my own dress for it. And I spent 3 months working on it. I bought the fabric with my own money from my part-time job and I stayed up late almost every single night putting it together. I was so proud of how it turned out. It was a dark green wrap dress and it fit me perfectly. Well, my mom hates my style. She She always says I dress too boring, and she wants me to wear this tight and bright designer clothing like she does. She kept hinting for weeks that I should just buy a real dress from the mall, but I told her no. I wanted to wear my handmade one. Well, 2 days before the dinner, I came home from work and I found my green dress in the trash. It was completely chopped up. I then freaked out and I asked my mom what happened. She then acted all innocent and said that she was just trying to iron it for me, but the iron burned a big hole in it. She claimed she panicked and tried to cut the burnt part out, but accidentally destroyed the whole thing. Like it literally made no sense. Then she smiled, pulled out this super tight, bright pink dress from a fancy store, and said, "Don't worry, I bought you a much better one to wear." And my God, I was heartbroken. I just went to my room and cried. I knew she destroyed my dress on purpose, just so I would have to wear what she wanted me to wear. When the night of the dinner came, I refused to wear the pink dress. Since my nice handmade dress was destroyed, I just put on my nicest pair of dark jeans and a plain black top. When my mom saw me, she lost her mind. She started yelling that I was embarrassing her in front of the entire family, and I was making her look bad. But I just looked at her and I said, well, my actual dress got destroyed, so this is what I have. At the dinner, my aunts and cousins kept asking why I dressed so casual when everyone else was in suits and gowns. But you know what? I told them exactly what happened with the iron and the scissors. My mom then got super quiet and looked embarrassed for the rest of the night. And now she won't talk to me. She says I humiliated her on purpose and destroyed the anniversary dinner for her. Meanwhile, my dad says I should have just worn the pink dress to keep the peace and that I acted like a brat. I feel a bit bad for causing drama at my grandparents' party, but I was seriously so hurt about my hard work going into the trash. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm kind of pissed off. Okay, if I'm being honest, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, your mom's getting a taste of her own medicine. This is not fair for you. You put so much hard work into making that dress. Oh, and by the way, hey, making a dress is not easy. Like, if you asked me to make a shirt for myself, I'd be like, I have no idea where to start. I don't even know what I'm doing. So the fact that you made a fully functioning dress that you were gonna wear for like this really important banquet or like this party for your family, like, dude, that is absolutely insane. Like, you pull that off and then your mom destroys it. Like, that is devastating and completely unacceptable. So no, you're not the jerk for telling the truth or for wearing something that isn't totally dress up. Because you had something set up for this occasion, but your mom ended up destroying it. And that's unfair entirely. Am I the jerk for finally telling my family that I'm done being their financial safety net after I literally dropped out of school just to make sure they would all be taken care of? Because despite the fact that everyone's an adult now, they're still practically demanding that I step up and take care of them. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I'm 28 years old and I'm the oldest of 4. And for reference, we grew up working class. When I was 17, my dad left my mom for another woman and pretty much just vanished. No real child support, no stepping up. It was just my mom trying to hold everything together and me stepping in whenever I could. I started working part-time in high school and full-time right after graduation. I enrolled in community college but dropped out after a year because we couldn't afford it and my family needed the income more than I needed classes. So I worked in retail, serving, office administration, whatever paid consistently. And a big part of my paycheck went to rent, groceries, utilities, car repairs, and even random emergencies. If my siblings needed money for books or some kind of fee, I would cover it. I told myself it was temporary, just until they got on their feet, but now all of them are adults. They're all college graduates. I was honestly so proud, and I thought this was the part where things would finally shift, where I could go back to school, build up my savings, maybe move out and actually have my own life. I told my mom I want to focus on myself now, maybe finish up my degree and start investing in my future. Now, she was supportive, but my siblings were not. None of them have stable jobs yet. Instead, they say they're applying or figuring things out. Meanwhile, they're still living at home, barely contributing, and when money's tight, I'm still the one getting the call. Then my youngest brother got his girlfriend pregnant. He doesn't have a job, he's got no savings, and suddenly there's this expectation in the air that I'll help out simply because I always have. But you know what? I'm tired. I'm almost 30 years old with no degree and minimal savings, all because I spent a decade making sure everyone else had opportunities. And now when I say I'm done being the backup plan, I'm being called selfish and cold. Extended family keeps saying, oh, that's what family does. But I feel like I've already done more than my fair share. So am I the jerk for stepping back and finally choosing my own future instead of continuing to carry everyone else? Because right now I don't know what else to do. Okay, in my opinion, it sounds like your family's been taking advantage of you for far too long. Holy crap, you put your life on hold so these people would actually have a life. And now that they've graduated college, they're still asking for more, still expecting you to pay for everything just because you have in the past? Like, no, I don't think so. That's unacceptable, because you should not be expected to put your life on hold for these people. That is unbelievably selfish of them, considering the fact that you've done everything for them. So no, you're not the jerk. Like, this really has to be a line in the sand. I know I would feel that way, because they're clearly taking advantage of you, and you deserve so much better than that. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that I don't want to be her emergency contact after she enlisted me without asking me first? Because right now I'm very pissed off about this and I'm not sure if I crossed the line. Here's how it all went down. Okay, for a bit of background, I live about 40 minutes away from my sister, who I will call Leah for the sake of the story. We have a decent relationship. I mean, we're not super close, but we talk every other week and we also see each other at family events. We're not the kind of siblings who are in each other's daily lives, but we generally get along just fine. About 6 weeks ago, I got a call from a hospital saying that they're calling on behalf of my sister and that I was listed as her emergency contact. She had come in for apparently a non-serious issue. She's completely fine, but in the moment, I had no idea what I was about to be told, and I drove 40 minutes to the hospital in a state of genuine panic. When I got there, she was already being discharged and seemed surprised to see me, which is when I found out she hadn't actually asked the hospital to call me. Apparently, her emergency contact form just had my name on it from a previous visit. Now, that part I could have let go, but what really bothered me was afterwards asking her when she put me down as an emergency contact, only to then find out that she had done it years ago without mentioning it to me. Now, here's the thing. I had never agreed to any of that. I had never been told about it. In fact, we never even had a conversation about what kind of role that actually involves. She said she just assumed I would be fine with it because I'm family. But I said that being family doesn't mean automatic consent to take on a role that could involve serious medical decisions, and that I would have liked to have been asked first. She then got upset and said that I was being cold and making a big deal out of a formality, but I told her I would prefer that she update the form going forward and list someone who had actually agreed to it. Ever since this happened, she hasn't really spoken to me, and it's kind of making me wonder if I'm the jerk here, because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think the original poster is definitely being a jerk here. Because, dude, this is really not that big of a deal, is it? It's not like you have some kind of I don't know, life or death decision behind you being the emergency contact. It's literally just there to be like, hey, your sister's in the hospital, just wanted to let you know. They're not gonna call you up to ask if you want to pull the plug or not. Like, dude, what's going on? That is such an overreaction and so inappropriate. And it kind of leads me to believe that you're probably the reason the two of you are not very close. So yeah, I think the original poster is definitely the jerk, and I think the way they handled this was very rude. An entitled couple refuses to pay me for my entire time babysitting after their baby fell asleep within 20 minutes of me being there, as they claim that I didn't do any work for the 4 hours I was there, and that according to them, I shouldn't get my full pay. And so right now, I'm honestly feeling very jaded, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Also, this story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit, so please check out the link in the description if you would like to submit your own story, because it very easily could be featured on the podcast. Let's get started. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I babysit occasionally for a couple in my neighborhood. Now, they are nice and the kid is sweet, so it's usually just an easy gig. Last weekend, they asked if I could watch their 2-year-old from 6 o'clock p.m. until 10 o'clock p.m. while they went out to dinner with friends. Now, I agreed on the usual rate, and I showed up at 6 o'clock. Well, by 6:20, the baby was already passed out in my arms after a bottle and a quick cuddle. I laid her in her crib, and I didn't hear a peep the rest of the night. Literally just sat on the couch scrolling my phone for almost 4 hours and checked the baby monitor a few times, and that was pretty much it. They then came home at around 9:45, and they were surprised the baby had been asleep almost the entire time. That was when the husband half-jokingly said, "Dang, maybe we should just pay you for 20 minutes of work." And when he said that, the wife laughed. Now, I laughed too at first, thinking it was just a joke, but then they handed me cash for 1 hour and said, "Honestly, we feel weird paying full price when you didn't really do anything." But I told them I still came over and they still had their night out, and part of babysitting is just being there in case the baby wakes up. But they didn't budge. They said they'd make it up to me next time, but I left feeling kind of taken advantage of. I didn't argue further because I didn't want to cause a scene. When I vented to my sister, she said they were being cheap and I was totally right to expect full pay. So seriously, I need to know, am I the jerk for expecting full pay even though the baby was asleep almost the entire time? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I want to first start off by saying that this post that we're talking about right now not only came from our subreddit, but also it got 5 million views, meaning that a lot of people have seen this, and a lot of people have commented on this. And just from scrolling through the comments itself, like, my God, everybody's in agreement that these people suck. They are literally screwing you out of your money. Dude, there's no way this is okay. Because the original poster is right. Half the battle of babysitting is just being there in case something goes wrong, or in case like the baby wakes up. So the fact that they're trying to be like, oh, I'm sorry, but you only did like 20 minutes of work. Like, that's crazy to me. That is not what this is about. You're there as a safety net. If they really thought that, oh yeah, you didn't do much work, then you could have easily put the kid to bed and then gone home. Like, that's basically what they're saying, right? And just because the kid was asleep doesn't mean that you shouldn't get paid for the full time that you were there. So seriously, if you do plan on babysitting for them in the future, which I would never do that again, I would take the advice of some of the people in the comments where they're basically saying like, you have to pay me in advance. Or even better yet, you say nothing until you get there. Then you say, look, you still owe me from last time and I need payment up front. Otherwise, this is just not gonna work. And if they say no, then you just walk out and then they have to cancel their plans. But seriously, in my opinion, I would never work with these people ever again because these people are super cheap and you do not deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled coworker refuses to learn how to spell my name correctly, so I decided to get some revenge by doing the exact same thing to her in such a way where she literally corrected her bad behavior almost instantly. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I'm a nurse at a small long-term care hospital. I have a not-so-common name that is spelled with extra letters. It's frequently misspelled and it's not a problem, but I will correct people until they learn to spell it right. I even have a trick to show how to really remember how to spell it. Well, we got an arrogant CNA working with us for a while. She fancied herself as good as a nurse. She wore a white coat, which by the way, very few nurses wear them anymore, demanded that nurses give medications to patients without any background, berated other coworkers, talked down to families and patients, and was entirely insufferable. Her name is very common with multiple possible spellings, but hers is very simple. Now, I didn't work with her that often since she worked at night, and this is all the better to avoid the higher-ups who definitely would not put up with her BS. But one day I was finally working with her as a nurse one night. In each room, there's a board that we write our names on so the patients know who is taking care of them. Usually, the CNA is the first in the room, and we will put the names on the board. Well, it's then that I noticed that she spelled my name wrong, so I fixed it when I saw her. I then saw her a bit later and I said, hey, I saw you spelled my name wrong, but I fixed it, but in the future, here's how you actually spell it. Now, when I said this reasonable response, she replied in a nasty tone and said, I don't have time for that. So with that bit of vitriol, I decided to get some revenge. I went into every room that she was assigned to, which by the way was at least twice as many as the nurses got, and I changed the spelling of her name, which by the way, her name is super easy to remember, to literally the longest and most wrong spelling version of it possible. And you know what? She never spelled my name wrong again because she saw very quickly how petty I could be. Oh man, I hate people like this. This Karen of a coworker literally thought they had so much authority and power, so much so that they would talk down to families and patients. Like for me, I can deal with a coworker who's nasty, but the second you start affecting customers or patients or families who literally are just there trying to like, I don't know, make sure their family member's healthy, like that's when you've got some serious problems on your hand and you absolutely deserve something like this. And it's so funny because she's trying to be like, I don't have time for your correction. Please leave me alone. I'm better than you. Like that's the vibe I'm kind of getting. It's like, dude, what are you doing? So good for you for getting this revenge because clearly this lady needs a lot of correction. My entitled manager screams at me and says that if I don't want to be here, then I can leave, as she states in a very condescending tone that she doesn't need me. So I decide to maliciously comply, essentially leading to her trying to get me fired, all because I followed what she said. And after reflecting on this, I honestly wish they did fire me because this manager was insane. Here's how it went down. Okay, so as the title basically implies, my shift lead, who we will call Adriana, tried to get me fired after dismissing me from my shift. I got the job at 16 because I was dating one of the other shift leads. And yes, I already know I'm off to a terrible start. My boyfriend was one of those characters that people either loved or hated. Mostly hated if you come from a loving home, because he was admittedly a terrible person, and Adriana especially hated him, and I'm sure she had her reasons. One Saturday morning, I showed up to work to find Adriana yammering about my boyfriend calling out that day. He didn't tell me he was calling out, and since Adriana was visibly upset already about his absence, I texted him to ask, hey, what's up? Why did you call out? Adriana is is really mad about being short-staffed on a Saturday, and now she's going to be yelling at me about it all shift. Now, my boyfriend was one of those people who really like to stir the pot, and I was somehow incredibly oblivious to this at the time. I texted him mostly to vent, but of course he used this as an excuse to start an argument with Adriana. He texted her something about accusing her of talking garbage, which for the record, I did not say that she was doing that, and I can hear from the kitchen she immediately started yelling into oblivion about how if I have something to say, I should have said it to her face, and how I'm such an idiot and such a jerk. This idiot is the dumbest girl I've ever met. Why are you even with him? And honestly, she's a little bit valid. I was really dense back in the day. Amidst her tirade about how stupid she thinks I am, she comes into the office where I'm eating my pre-shift breakfast of Boston Market macaroni in total silence. This whole time, I was just disassociating into my Mac, because what else was I gonna do? Not only did I come from a home where yelling often led to me dodging flying lamps and drawers, but I was genuinely scared that she'd have her cousin jump me if I pissed her off. You know, well before this even happened in the first place. So she's standing there, I'm eating, kind of smiling out of discomfort, just watching her tear into me even more about my intelligence. Now, why, you might be wondering? Well, because my boyfriend called out of work. It was honestly so bizarre. It had escalated so quickly, and I was so disassociated. Life kind of felt like it was moving in slow motion in that moment. She eventually says the magic line that snapped me out of my disassociation and freed me from the wage slave chains that lovely Saturday morning. If you don't want to be here, then leave, because I don't need you. Now again, this is a Saturday morning at Pizza Hut that, by the way, is already very short-staffed. I knew for a fact that she was BSing not needing me, but I also knew that she said it right in front of the office cameras. So I'm thinking that sounded like approval to leave early, didn't it? Especially after being berated for 15 minutes straight as soon as I walked in the door for something that I didn't even do. She later tried to get me fired for walking out on my shift, and the first thing I did was tell the general manager to check the cameras, but I honestly should have just let them fire me. So Adriana, if you're out there, I live every day thanking God that I didn't have to experience a phase of my life that included screaming at 16-year-old girls first thing in the morning at my big fancy Pizza Hut shift lead job. I heard you also got fired for attacking a customer, but it's okay. I understand that being a shift lead at Pizza Hut is a very high-stakes environment to be working in. No, really, you don't look insane at all screaming your head off inside of a fast food joint on a near daily basis. That's obviously some completely sane and very intelligent behavior right there, because trust me, you'll never catch me doing anything like that. Oh man, I really hope I never end up like Adriana, because that is so crazy. Especially working at Pizza Hut, dude. Like, chill out, it's not that serious. Sure, you're slow, but guess what? No one's expecting anything out of you. This isn't a Michelin star restaurant, dude. Just chill out. It's gonna be okay. So personally, I love the fact that you walked out early, and I just can't believe that she tried to be like, oh, you're fired. Because as far as I'm concerned, she's the one that lit that candle, and she had no right to talk to you like that in the slightest. My entitled boss wanted me to do rounds every half hour all night as a security guard, while she literally tried to get away with sleeping in our office dining room. So I decided to get some petty revenge by making it so she could never get any sleep all night. Because if I'm not getting any sleep, then trust me, she's not getting any either. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I was 21 years old at the time this happened. I used to work as a security officer for a flower production company, working 24-hour shifts. Each shift group had an average of 5 officers and 1 supervisor. So we agreed to take turns doing the rounds around the building during the night. One officer would be awake watching the building while the others rest. Then the next hour, another one would take his place so that he can rest, and so on and so forth. One day, 2 of us were sent to help out at a sister location of the company that only had 1 officer attending that day. And it was going to be a very busy day, so they needed at least a couple more officers. The day was exhausting. So when the night came and we were the only people in the building, we were going to discuss the same watch turn schedule, but the supervisor of this location didn't want to work that way. She wanted to keep 2 of the officers fixed at 2 of the most important places of the building, while the 3rd officer does rounds around the building every half hour. I tried to talk her into having turns so we could at least rest a bit, but she refused, and she placed me as the officer doing the rounds every half hour. When we were at our stations, we noticed that she went to sleep in the company's dining room, which is the only place with an air conditioning, while leaving us outside on our watch stations with the heat and the mosquitoes. So I decided that if all had to stay awake, then guess what? So did she. We had radios to communicate in case there was some emergency to report. So every time I went to do a round, I took my radio and I said, "Officer reporting my round at 12:30 in the morning. No issues to report on the building." And I could literally hear her holding up a yawn when she replied that she received my report. Then I did it again next round. "Officer reporting my round at 1 o'clock in the morning. No issue to report on the building." And so I kept it going the entire night, not letting her sleep as I reported my rounds every 30 minutes. Sometimes she wouldn't even respond. And in those instances, I would repeat my report, asking for confirmation that the report was received. And she would eventually respond, probably after trying to force herself into pretending that she was awake. In the morning, she looked even more sleep deprived than we did, so I took that as a sign that I did my job very well. Dude, what an awful supervisor, seriously. She literally tried to sit there and be like, you guys go sit at your station to do the rounds. I'll be in the dining room standing guard just to make sure nobody comes in here. See you later. It's like, dude, there's literally a way we can solve this where everyone can get some sleep and not be completely exhausted. Like, what's going on right now? That's so dumb. So yeah, your boss sucked, but I love the way you got some revenge, because I am right there with you. If you have to stay awake, then she absolutely has to as well. My friend came up to my store while I was working, dressed up as a plague doctor, entertaining and shocking pretty much everybody, except for one customer who was frightened at the sight of him. Here's what went down. So I have a friend who likes to occasionally cosplay as historical figures in public. We're talking stuff like Templar Knights or plague doctors. One day while I was working, he decided to show up at the grocery store that I worked at dressed as a plague doctor while he grabbed some groceries. Because there's a huge window at the front where the tills are, I had seen him outside walking in and was already thinking to myself, oh, I wonder how this is gonna go. He came inside and started walking around to find the things he was looking to buy. Now, I tried to focus on the grocery orders that I was ringing through, but I kept glancing around every now and then between each one to see where he was. He also knew that I was working that day, so he came to my till when he was all done. I talked to him for a bit while I scanned his groceries through, joking with him that I didn't think that plague doctors ate whatever he was buying. Some other customers who were lining up behind him or passing by looked at him, and a couple of them also made some friendly remarks as well. After he left though, I had a whole bunch of people asking me all about him. I wasn't embarrassed by it, and I was happy to explain that he is my friend. Finally, when the store quieted down a bit, I had a coworker of mine come over and say, "So did you ask him all the burning questions?" I replied to him, "Listen, I don't have to. He's my friend, and this is not the first time he's done something like that." Then my coworker told me that apparently my friend had scared the crap out of a customer while he was shopping. The customer was down an aisle, grabbing some stuff off the shelf, when they turned around and saw my friend standing there, and they had no idea what to do. Well, my coworker and I laughed about that for a little while, and I explained to her about all the other times he has cosplayed like that out in public. And you know what? There was absolutely no judgment from anyone. Overall though, it made my day and a lot of other people's days a little bit brighter, aside from that one person who got scared. And I'm certain that will probably happen again in the future. Dude, I wish I was this brave to like go cosplay in like public or something like that. I've always been jealous of people who can do this because I just would be way too embarrassed, especially if this wasn't like a convention or some kind of like event going on. To just do that in public, like that takes a crazy amount of bravery. So in my opinion, I think the original poster is friends with the right kind of people. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. If you'd like to submit your own stories, then check out the link in the description. Am I the jerk for not wanting to go back to my mom's house after she and the rest of my siblings treated me like absolute garbage? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 15-year-old male and I recently moved in with my dad, and now my mom and siblings are making me feel like I'm the villain for it. I don't really know how to feel anymore, so I figured I would ask here. Growing up, I was always kind of the odd one out. My brother is 23 and my sister's 20, and they both are very loud, they're outgoing, and honestly pretty mean sometimes. I've always been quieter. I like drawing, playing video games, and just keeping to myself in general. I didn't really fit into their whole dynamic, and I guess they noticed. My siblings constantly made fun of me for how I talked, what I wore, the fact that I didn't have many friends. They would go through my stuff, steal things, read my messages out loud, and just never stop. I tried to tell my mom, but she always said I was too sensitive or just trying to start problems. It got to the point where I just stopped talking at dinner and even being around the family at all. Things got worse when my brother moved back in this year and he started calling me awful names, and my sister would just laugh or even join in. One time he shoved me into the door so hard, I hit my shoulder and I couldn't move it right for several days. My mom said I was being dramatic and that boys just roughhouse. It's then that I started getting really depressed. I would fake being sick to avoid school or just lock myself in my room all day. Eventually, I told a teacher what was going on and she helped me talk to a counselor, and they got in touch with my dad. For reference, he left when I was younger but lives in the same city. Now, he is not a perfect person, but he actually did listen to me. And you know what? He took me in without a fight. And for the first time in forever, I actually feel safe. But now, my mom is texting me saying that I broke her heart and that I abandoned my family. My sister keeps posting stuff on Instagram about me being fake and ungrateful, and my brother just sent me a thumbs down and hasn't said anything else. A couple of my aunts messaged me saying that I should go back and talk it out because according to her, oh, they're still family, you know. But here's the thing, I don't want to go back. I don't feel like they even see me as a person. I'm finally somewhere I don't have to walk on eggshells or cry myself to sleep. But now I feel guilty, like I'm just being selfish or overreacting. So yeah, am I the jerk for not wanting to go back to that house, even if they say they miss me? Because right now I'm honestly so confused. Okay, first off, I want to say that the way your mom, your brother, and your sister are treating you is not normal. It's pretty obvious that not only does your mom not care about your well-being, but your siblings are just there to make your life a living nightmare. So I think with all things considered and just how miserable you really were, I don't blame you for moving out and going with your dad. And thank goodness there's actually a school counselor out there who listened and helped you get this started, because I really don't think you should have had to deal with that in the slightest. And the fact that anyone's trying to be like, oh, they're still your family, that is crazy, because they abandoned you a long time ago the second they started making fun of you and nobody did anything about it. Today is the 1-year anniversary of me going no contact with my family, all because of their demands over my money and my social media. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I haven't spoken to anyone on my mother's side in 1 year over this, and I'm questioning if I ever will again, despite loving them and wanting a relationship with them. I am married, and my husband and I share the exact same background story. We both grew up poor in bad environments, and we both left home at 18 for college and never looked back. I didn't meet my husband until I was 31, and by then, we had both managed to overcome our upbringings and create decent lives for ourselves. We both work and we don't have any kids, and we have a very modest home, and we keep our expenses minimal because we prefer regular travel over nicer things. We both work remote as well, so from the outside looking in, we appear to always be on vacation. At one point, I decided to start posting travel content to see if I could generate a following and monetize it, which ended up working out, and I was able to earn small amounts and a few free things here and there, and honestly, I was more than happy with this outcome, so I continued to post in hopes of what this might become. I live across the country from my family, so no one had any idea that I was doing well before I started posting, because I usually only saw them on holidays. Well, my increased posting of our travels led to my family members start asking me for money. I was initially happy to help because the requests made sense, and it didn't hurt the budget. Over time, it started going from a couple hundred here and there to increasingly ridiculous requests, as well as more people asking. For example, my brother's fiance asked me to pay for their wedding, and this is not just to help, but to literally cover it completely. Well, my husband became fed up, and together we created an agreement with each other that any request over a certain amount needs to be approved by the other. He also said that my mother is the only person I need to worry about, and to let everyone else take care of themselves. Now, my husband is a lot more bootstrap mentality than I am, so his response is usually no, whereas I used to have a harder time with that. With him supporting me, it became much easier to say no. I even gained confidence after a while, and eventually, everything except someone being homeless or hungry became an easy no for me. My family definitely noticed the shift and commented on it, but it really didn't seem like a big deal. Fast forward, and my mom slips up while we're talking on the phone, and I find out that she was lying to me about why she needed money. After I cut everyone off but her, they began asking her to ask me, and she would do this and pretend that it was for her. Now, this hurt my feelings, and my response was to stop helping her financially as well. She then started asking other people in the family instead. One day, I get a phone call from a cousin of mine, and this cousin makes good money, mind you, but he has an entire family to support, and he is also regularly asked for money. He will ask me why mom's asking him for money instead of me, and tells me that I need to step up and share the load. He then goes on this tangent about how we need to stick together and take care of the people who took care of us. But you know what? I didn't even bother explaining how we got here. Instead, I just kept it civil and then I let it go. After this, a younger relative of mine who also posts content makes a video about people who don't help family and forget where they came from. So imagine my hurt and surprise to open the comments and see my aunt comment and say, oh, I won't say any names, but their name rhymes with Clara. And for reference, we'll say that my name is Sarah. Even worse is that the comments had a lot of likes, replies, and laughing emojis from other family members. So you know what? That was more than enough for me. I haven't talked to anyone since then, and I've removed and blocked all of my relatives from social media. I don't know if this is permanent, and I do not miss them, but I'm just not ready to deal with the entitlement and ungratefulness ever again. So seriously, am I making a mistake by doing this? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. Okay, honestly, if my family was trying to use me for money, all because of something I worked hard to achieve, dude, you better believe I would cut them off as well. Like, this is not normal behavior. You don't treat family like this and try to hustle them for money. Like, my God, your brother's fiance being like, oh, you need to pay for my entire wedding. It's like, dude, get a job and save up and do it yourself. Why am I responsible for that? So yeah, your family sucks, and I don't blame you for cutting them off, because if my family was doing that, I would honestly probably take the exact same action. A group of entitled jerks make my life a living nightmare, as they constantly complain about everything about our restaurant, despite the fact that we were doing the best we could understaffed. So I decided to get some revenge by throwing one of their wireless keys into the Baltimore harbor that they left behind. And sure, it's not my proudest moment, but honestly, it was incredibly satisfying. Here's how it went down. So 10 years ago, I worked at a now defunct restaurant in the Baltimore harbor. Harbor. We were a fairly busy restaurant, especially for brunch, but unfortunately, most of our front of house staff was incredibly unreliable. The day was June 5th, which was a Sunday, and we expected to be incredibly busy because it was a holiday weekend. When I showed up, only 3 of our 7 servers, 1 of our 2 bartenders, and half the expected amount of back of house had come into shift. So, as you can expect, I was swamped with tables. What was supposed to be just the patio section of 6 tables, I now had the patio and part of the inside, a combined 12 table section. Honestly, it was a nightmare, but I was somehow keeping up with everything. My guests could tell we were understaffed, and most of them were pretty understanding that I wasn't as attentive as I'd like to be, and I think that's because they saw me running around so much. Anyways, it's towards the end of the shift, and I get a table of 3 gentlemen who from the very start seemed like they were going to be a pretty needy table. I go over, I greet them, and I ask if they wanted to start with some drinks. They said they would need a minute, and maybe 3 minutes pass and I come back, and before I can even ask about drinks, they tell me that I took too long. They then ask for my name and tell me that I was rude that I didn't introduce myself by name. They then said that if I wanted better tips, I should start doing so right away. Now for context, for whatever reason, our owner didn't want us to introduce ourselves by name, only as their server, but I could tell them if they asked. Now I told them this policy, but I happily provided my name. I then asked if they wanted to put in some drinks and they obliged. I ring in the drinks and about 5 minutes later, they waved me down, and before the drinks are even delivered, they tell me they all decided they changed their minds and they wanted completely different drinks. So I had to run over to the one bartender for the entire restaurant and tell her not to make the drinks even though she was literally halfway done. And she was understandably pissed off. I put in the new drinks and then I go back to see if they're ready for appetizers and entrees. They say yes and then they order. 5 minutes later, a man from the table comes to talk to me while I'm at another table, and they again decide they changed their minds on the orders, saying that they wanted to change the appetizers. I then had to excuse myself from the other table, flag down the chef, and explain the situation. And if you remember, the back house is also extremely short-staffed, so he is also rightfully furious. So we now have a pissed off server, a pissed off bartender, and an angry chef. My service manager then calls for hands and I bring over their appetizers. 5 minutes later, their entrees come out, and as I check to see if they have everything and if everything's okay, they tell me it's not. They were upset that the entrees came too close to the appetizers, so they want them comped and a round of free drinks for the hassle. So I just said that I would speak to my manager. I explained to my manager and now she's angry too. She goes over to talk to the table, and when she comes back, she says to comp 1 appetizer but nothing else. And with that, the last piece of the puzzle has been collected, and everybody now hates this table. At this point, I've had enough, and I stay clear of this table as much as I could, other than to fill waters and pre-bus. Towards the end of service, one of the men asked me how long I'd been doing this. I told him, and he told me I should quit and find something else to do, because according to him, I was really bad at it. But you know what? I just laughed it off. I walked away, I printed their check, and then I dropped it off. I had my manager run the card, but I didn't want to go back. After they left, I went to pick up the check, and of course, they stiffed me. They left me $2 on a $130 bill. As I started clearing the rest of the table and the napkins, I saw that this guy left his Audi key fob under his napkin, so I quickly put it in my pocket to bring it to the host when I had time. A few hours later, the host got a call from the guy asking if we had found a key. The host said that nothing had turned up, but she would check with your server. Well, apparently when she said this, the guest made a comment about how I probably stole it because I looked like the type. As the host told me this, I kind of just lost it internally. I told her I had not seen it, and then a plan was devised. I then proceeded to walk to the back of the restaurant, straight out the back door, and I tossed the keys into the Baltimore Harbor. Now, this is not my proudest moment in life, but after all was said and done, I think it was well deserved because my God, this was absolutely satisfying. Dude, okay, I literally just can't stand people who act like this. They're so needy, they're so obnoxious, and they try to insult everybody in the process. Seriously, this group went down the list. They pissed off the server, the chef, literally the manager and the bartender, all in under an hour, mind you, and then tried to say to the original poster, oh, you need to quit your job and do something else. You're not very good at this. And it's like, dude, come on, what are you doing right now? This is so dumb. And the fact that they screwed you over on any kind of tip, and yes, a tip is absolutely necessary after dealing with that crap. I don't blame you for a second for throwing their key into the harbor, because as far as I'm concerned, they deserve it, especially for the poor treatment they gave you and pretty much everybody inside of that restaurant. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I left my family 2 years ago and went full no contact after they treated me like garbage for so long, and now they've showed up back in my life and are practically begging me to go with them on a bonding trip. But right now, I honestly am not sure if I should go or not, because these people have really hurt me in the past. Here's what's going on. So I escaped from my old life almost 2 years ago, and honestly, life has been so much better ever since then. Difficult, absolutely, but much better in other aspects. At the start, my family did everything they could to guilt trip me into staying. They were shaming me, they were using manipulation tactics, even following my every move. I then decided to go full no contact for a while, and after almost a full year, they reached out saying they didn't want to lose me and promised to respect my space as long as I at least visited occasionally. Well, I agreed and I visited a couple of times, but when I'm there, I don't even try to interact much anymore. I did try in the beginning, but all I got was indifference or coldness. That killed any motivation to put in much effort. The most shocking part is realizing just how hard my own family made the process of leaving. It's still really surreal at times. Like my own family, seriously, all because I just wanted freedom. And honestly, if you knew my backstory, then you would know that it has not been easy. And now, one of my siblings says that I'm not putting in the effort and that it hurts our mom to see me come and go and know nothing about my life once I leave. And I'm just left wondering, do I need to explain where I go and what I do or how I live? Like I owe them some kind of update? And you know what? Why? It feels like they want things to go back to how they used to be, and that version of me is long gone. My parents, even at this stage, still blame me and say that this new dynamic is my fault. They've now invited me on a road trip to Bond, and while part of me feels like maybe I should give it a shot, the other part is screaming caution. I've already been roped into going to an event that I didn't even want to attend, so boundaries are already being nudged, and I was promised my decisions would be respected. I told a friend about this, and she said that I'm being difficult, and now I just don't know. I mean, am I being difficult? Is it just in my head? Should I go on this trip or just stay away? I would love to hear from anyone who's had to rebuild themselves after cutting ties and trying to re-engage on their terms, because right now I seriously am not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I do not think you should go on this trip at all. Someone in the comments pretty much spelled it out, but I think I'm going to articulate it because it's a really good point. And basically, I can't imagine being trapped in a car with these people on a road trip. If they really are as bad as you're saying, and trust me, I completely believe you, I'm not saying that they're not, then in my opinion, I don't think it's a good idea to go anywhere with these people, because they sound like a nightmare and I just would not want to be stuck with them in some situation where I can't escape. And I seriously just don't think this is the kind of energy that anyone should have to deal with. My entitled neighbor thinks that I'm available for her 24/7 to fix and repair whatever device or handheld thing she might be struggling with, making me incredibly frustrated and very annoyed that I live next to her in the first place. Here's what happened. Okay, so I moved into this apartment approximately 10 years ago, and I was extremely lucky to have an old retired couple living in the apartment in front of me on the same floor. And I say extremely lucky in quotation marks because this was a really annoying situation. When I was told this, I was like, okay, whatever. I'll just greet everyone from the building, including them, and that's it. But somehow this woman is some next level entitled person. She knocks on my door at least once a week ever since I moved in. I don't open the door anymore because whenever I did open the door before, she would just want me to fix her phone or laptop or her TV. She literally wanted me to be her personal handyman or something like that. She even told me, "You're young, you're supposed to know how to fix these things." But this one particular time really made me angry. I had a fever and I was sleeping on the couch, too weak to even go all the way to my bed. My child had a fever too, sleeping next to me, and it was like 9:30 p.m. and then suddenly, someone knocks on the door and I wake up. I realized it must have been her, so I just ignored it and I tried to fall back asleep. After a few seconds, however, she knocked again, but I still decided to ignore it. The third time though, she knocked even louder, and I was like, what in the world is this? It's probably something really serious, right? I thought to myself, they're both very old. They have diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. So probably something happened and she really needs help, right? So I proceeded to get up from the couch slowly. I wrapped myself in a blanket till I got to the door, and she even rang the doorbell. I was then 100% sure it had to be an emergency when she kept doing this, because she's never done this before. I then unlocked the door and I asked her what happened, and she's like, "I can't open Facebook, please fix my phone." I said to her, "I'm sorry, but I won't do that now. I have a fever and I was sleeping already." She then got mad at me, asking why I can't do it now. So I just repeated what I said and I said goodnight. While I was closing the door, she just yelled at me and said, "I'll be expecting you in the morning to fix my phone." So next time, even if she knocks 100 times on my door and keeps ringing the doorbell, I won't be opening the door for her, even if she actually has some kind of emergency, because trust me, this lady literally is not worth the time. Holy crap, there is no way I would want to put up with that. Seriously, that is crazy. Like if I was in your shoes, I would probably have the police involved already. And it sounds like this was 10 years ago, so I don't know if like doorbell cameras were a big thing 10 years ago, but if they were available, I would be installing that like yesterday and record every instance of this crazy person doing this, because I would probably move. Like there's no way I would ever be able to put up with that, especially if it happened for over a decade. Like, that's crazy. I could never deal with that. My friend's new girlfriend called me a pick-me girl and is now trying to turn my friends against me. And right now, I feel like my whole world is falling apart and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 36-year-old female and I have a group of 5 friends. We hang out a lot together. We play video games together, go to Friday Night Magic, we're watching movies together, doing D&D, and just generally being nerdy. One of the people in the friend group, who we will call Bruce, has recently gotten a new girlfriend, and we've tried to include her in our get-togethers. The girlfriend, I'll call her Silver, really seems to hate me, and I'm not sure what to do. I didn't notice at first, if I'm honest. She came along to our May the 4th Return of the 5th party sleepover, and one of my friends, who we will call Peter, helped her make a paladin to join in on a D&D one-shot when she said she wanted to learn. However, the other night when I was having a passionate debate with another friend who we will call Steve about the atrocity that was Hush 2 from the DC Comics, Silver absolutely lost it on me. She started yelling about how I was a pick-me and how I was mad that she was in the group and that I wanted to sleep with all the boys, but especially Peter. She yelled for like 5 minutes while I just sat there like a deer in the headlights because I didn't know what to say. She accused me of making my warlock sexy in D&D to make the boys want me, that I picked a pretty girl card for my deck in Magic, that I tried to dress sexy for the May the 4th party. I tried to tell her that I have no interest in sleeping with Bruce or any of my other guy friends, and she just burst into tears. Peter said that maybe I should go for now because she was upset, so that's what I did. Now on Discord, a bunch of them, namely Peter, Bruce, Steve, and someone I'll call Michael, have all said that I should apologize to her, with only my other friend, who we will call Clark, saying that I have nothing to apologize for. There's been a lot of talk about keeping the peace, but I'm not sure what I should apologize for. I didn't make a move on anyone. I haven't slept with or tried to sleep with any of my friends. I'm not sure what I should do or what I can do. I don't know what to apologize for, and I feel like my friends are siding with her. What should I do? You need to find better friends. This is insane. First of all, this Silver lady is a complete moron. She came in here, got super jealous of you, and then suddenly just said, "Oh, you're such a pick-me girl. You are such an awful person. You're an idiot. You're trying to sleep with everybody." But it's like, dude, projecting much? That's clearly your agenda. It sounds like the original poster just wants to make friends and that's it. So like, seriously, why should you have to leave the group or apologize to her, especially if you didn't do anything? Like, what's going on right now? If anyone's the pick-me girl in this story, it's the Silver lady. So no, you're not the jerk and you didn't do anything wrong. And if your friends are truly taking her side, then in my opinion, these are not good friends to begin with. My new employer demands that I work half of minimum wage for the first few months of my employment, resulting in me not even showing up for work and other people I was supposed to start working with quitting their jobs the same day in protest. Here's what happened. 7 years ago, I needed cash for a new graphics card. I was just a teenager back then, and I'd worked with my aunt before, but her place was about 40 minutes away, so I decided to look for something local. Then I found a job posting just a couple blocks from my house that would be a night shift clerk at a convenience store. It paid a few bucks above minimum wage, so I applied, I got a text back, and I went in for an interview. And the interview went well until the very end. The manager said she wanted to be cleared because a lot of people had quit over pay misunderstandings. Then she hit me with this. For the first month, I'd be paid half of minimum wage. After that, I'd get minimum wage for another 2 months, and then I'd finally get the rate from the job listing. Now, I was stunned and taken back, but I played it cool and I acted like I was totally fine with it. She was so happy, going on about how young people these days don't want to work, but I was apparently different. And I thought to myself, oh yeah, I was different, all right. A few days later, they told me I got the job. I was then added to the group chat with all the other clerks and the manager. They made a schedule to cover the 24-hour shifts, and then the manager sent a message saying that my first 4 hours wouldn't be paid because apparently it was just training. And at this point, I wasn't even mad anymore. I was just amazed at how malpractice this whole thing was. So when the day came along, I just didn't show up. 1 minute before my shift, I left the group chat and I blocked everybody. About 20 minutes later, I got a call from what I assume was the manager's husband, asking if I was going to come in. I then told him something along the lines of, "No, I'm not interested in working for half pay. Good luck though, you guys are gonna need it." Well, when I said that, she was livid, screaming on the phone, yelling about how people like me make her hate young people. I'm guessing someone had to cover my shift, unfortunately, but I guess that was the final straw, because later that day, I saw both the morning and graveyard shifts posted again on the same job site. And yeah, it was for the same business. So overall, I didn't even have to do anything big. I just dipped and didn't show up, and it made other people quit. But thankfully, I'm glad I exposed this manager who was refusing to pay fair and legal wages, because what she was doing was completely messed up. Yeah, I think I would go bananas if someone was like, "Oh yeah, the first 4 hours are unpaid, see you at work." It's like, no, it's not. It's absolutely not. And also, minimum wage is literally what it's called. It's the minimum legal wage that you can pay someone want for work. You can't be like, oh, you're gonna get paid half that. And like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal, at least in the United States. Like, you can't pay someone less than that unless it's some weird extenuating circumstance. So good for you for not putting up with that crap, because trust me, there are much better jobs out there, and you do not need that kind of energy in your life. My entitled former employee decides that she wants a job no matter what, demanding that I fire one of my current workers, who, by the way, are doing fantastic, just so I can hire her back up again into my team. But what transpires after this conversation is honestly mind-blowing and completely surprising, as this lady shows once and for all why she is absolutely incredibly entitled. Here's what went down. Okay, so this situation went from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. For some backstory, I own a small business and our team are absolute rock stars. These are good people who could walk at any time and land another job in minutes. We survived the pandemic that must not be named on Reddit, with no layoffs, no reduction in pay except for me, and transitioned to a 100% work at home, which remains in place. The savings we enjoyed by not renewing our lease actually helped us a lot. We've worked together for a long time, with a least senior person being with us 7 years. Now, a friend of my wife, who we will call Stacy for the sake of the story, is a complainer. She's one of those people who are not happy unless they're not happy. But my ever-patient wife does her best to cheer her up. Last December, Stacy put in a vacation request for the week of Christmas, which, by the way, was a week before Christmas, when everybody else had already put in their request and was approved. Her request was denied, and she thought she would leverage the situation by quitting, only to then discover they processed her voluntary termination after she went home. It's now May and she's been out of work, and she, amongst other friends, were visiting last Sunday for one of my wife's wine and crafts nights among her friends. Making small talk in the kitchen, I asked her how the job search was going, and she said it was going poorly. Then she asked me for a job. Now, I didn't mind the ask. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. However, we're not hiring right now, and I told her as much. She then said to me, you know I'm a hard worker. Why don't you just fire someone and hire me? Now, it took me a second to process this before I explained that our staff has been together for almost a decade, and I simply can't do that. To which she replied by saying, you're the owner, you can do anything you want. And it's like, no, I'm a big fan of the book Leaders Eat Last, and a BS move like that would destroy the trust of my team. I then apologized and made a quick exit before the conversation could continue. Well, on Monday, I happened to be on the phone with another small business owner in town. For the sake of the story, we'll call him Bob, and Bob said he was down to a couple of people, and it was then that I remembered Stacy's request. I then told Bob what little I knew about her work life, and he said to have her call. So I told my wife, who passed it along to Stacy. Well, fast forward to today, and Bob calls me. He led off by saying, how well do you know Stacy? Now, I was a little nervous, not looking to vouch for her, but also not wanting to torpedo her opportunity, so I just gave the best non-answer that I could come up with. Well, Bob then burst into laughter, explaining that his interview with Stacy lasted less than 45 minutes because she kept trying to interview not for the job he had available, but for other positions that he already has filled. I then apologized and things are okay with Bob and I, but holy crap, this really did go south very quickly. Oh man, this is one of those situations where it's like, oh yeah, you're kind of glad this person's gone, and you're really glad they quit because they were clearly just problem after problem inside the office. So you know what, at least you tried to help her out, but seriously, it sounds like all the problems fall squarely on Stacy's shoulders, because she clearly wants the wrong kind of things and is unwilling to work hard to get what she wants. An entitled jerk is practically hitting me with their car as they're following me to my parking spot, as I guess they really wanted to take the spot before I left. But instead, I decided to give it to somebody else, putting this weird person in their place. Here's how I did it. Okay, so today I was leaving a parking lot that was maybe about 99% full. As I walk, I sense a car following me from pretty close, obviously sensing that it could take my spot. And this is a car I noticed entering the area moments before. But here's the thing, this shiny red car was literally humming right behind me, almost touching my legs. I know I have what the driver wants, my parking spot. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but my God, you're way too close. So I make a turn towards my lane, and my car is maybe 2/3 down the aisle, and I see right in front of me an older lady in a small beat-up car, like maybe a Nissan or something like that, and she obviously was inside the parking area before this shiny red car was following me. So I gently point to the lady and I say, my spot is yours, but I'm not 100% certain that she saw me. Meanwhile, the shiny EV red car is still following me even closer, sensing a new opponent, I guess. Once inside my car, I gently pulled backwards with a curved path to block the shiny red car, and it quite literally had to back off for me to have enough space to leave my spot. I then motioned the older lady to take my spot, and she thanked me but said to me, "What about him?" And you know what? I just replied by saying, "You were here first, ma'am." She then entered the space with a huge smile, and I gently pulled away and looking in the mirror at the shiny red car behind me. So next time, if you want my parking spot, don't act so entitled and it might just be yours. Because as it is right now, that red car was definitely not going to take my spot. Okay, I can understand someone trying to get the parking spot and really snag it before anybody else, but to follow so closely that your bumper is brushing up against their legs, dude, what are you doing? That is dangerous. There's no excuse for that. I can't stand people who act like that, and honestly, I think you handled this really nicely. Because dude, I'm right there with you. If someone's gonna be weird like that, then congratulations, you're not getting my spot and I'm gonna give it to someone else. My friend was attacked by their boyfriend after he was convinced that she was cheating on him. So I decided to get even by quite literally canceling all of his classes for college and screwing up his schedule in such a way that made it nearly impossible for him to sign up for any other classes in a timely manner. Here's how it went down. So back in the before times when the internet was still a new thing with lots of potential, I was enrolled in my junior college. A little bit into the semester, I moved in with my girlfriend so we could both save on rent. I'll call my girlfriend Lucy for the purposes of this post. One night, Lucy says she invited a friend from one of her classes for a game night, and this sounded good to me. We invited a couple of other friends, and it was really a fun night. Surprisingly, it turned out that her friend, who we will call Sarah, was someone I knew from high school. We weren't close friends, but we knew each other and we got along fine. After that night, Sarah was invited over pretty frequently for dinner, game nights, or to watch a movie. She even brought her boyfriend over a couple of times, who we will call Jay, but he never quite fit in. He would be quiet or standoffish and wouldn't really engage much, and just seemed like he never really wanted to be there. It was clear no one really felt comfortable having him there, but we invited him to be polite to Sarah. Fortunately, he only came over 2 or 3 times and found an excuse to refuse every other time. A month or 2 after this all started, Sarah called my girlfriend crying and asked if she could come over. And of course, we said yes. Now, the story that was relayed was that Jay was getting very upset with Sarah for coming over to our place so frequently, and then he accused her of cheating on him. She never clarified if he thought that she was cheating with him, Lucy, or both, but any option was ridiculous and never happened. But he confronted her and got verbally aggressive with her, calling her all kinds of nasty names. At one point, she tried to walk past him to leave and he shoved her back. This caused her to trip over a coffee table, fall over, and get a huge bruise on her butt and lower back. Now, Sarah swore up and down that he had never physically touched her before, and she believed that it was just an accident, but I was pissed off. I wanted revenge. You don't mess with my friends and you don't attack women. I wanted to beat the crap out of him, but while I am a very big guy, I've never been in a fight and I'm not a violent person. But instead, a revenge plan was formed in my mind. At the time, I was working in the administration building of the school as a student employee. As part of my job, I could access anyone's student records. I could see their fees and I could see their schedule. The date was fast approaching that was the last day possible to drop or add classes without penalty or specific permission. So I looked Jay up in the system, I got a student ID number and the other information that I needed, and I put my plan into motion. On the last day to change schedules, I used the dedicated enrollment phones in the administration building, and I canceled all of his classes. Not only that, but I went through and added every class I could find that had a course fee. If you owed a debt at the school, you couldn't get copies of your transcripts or anything else. Now, something that I didn't mention was that Jay was a foreign student and couldn't stay in the country if he wasn't enrolled with a certain number of units. Now, I wish I could give more info about the fallout, but as I didn't want to get this traced back to me, I didn't tell anyone, nor did I pull up his records again for quite a while. I did get a little payoff though, because Sarah was really worried about seeing him again. For reference, she had broken up with him the night after he pushed her, and they had an English class together on Tuesdays. Well, she said that on Tuesday he was there, but there was also someone new standing in the class, and he was standing because there weren't enough seats. Now, the teacher, seeing that there were more people than there should be, decided to call roll and just take a wild guess as to who wasn't on it. That's right, it was Jay. Apparently, after I dropped all of his classes, someone on the waitlist got in. Jay tried to argue with the teacher, but as the teacher had the official class roster and Jay wasn't on it, there was nothing he could do about it. Sarah said that she never saw Jay in that class ever again. But after that, I don't know much more about what happened next. Lucy and I eventually broke up, so I didn't see Sarah very often after that. After a while, I did look up Jay's class schedule, and all of the classes with course fees were gone, but he didn't have any other classes on the books either. I wanted to assume that he was kicked out of the school, but I didn't try to confirm it one way or the other. Either way, Sarah didn't have a class with him, and while he probably deserved more, he was definitely inconvenienced and possibly kicked out of the school. Sometimes I worry if I was way too harsh, but then I remember that he absolutely deserved it, because at the end of the day, you are more than welcome to mess with me, but when it comes to my friends, you better believe there's gonna be backlash. Holy crap, this is some serious revenge. You literally screwed this guy's schedule up so much that he probably got kicked out of the school. Especially if they're an international student, like holy crap, that's crazy, bro. So truly, good for you for being so dedicated to your friends, because this guy absolutely deserved to get punished. And while the way you went about doing it is something I would personally never do, I do love the effort and I love the fact that you definitely got even. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My job was a chaotic mess all the way up until I decided to sort it out, resulting in me throwing away about $1,000 worth of candy that literally was getting in the way and something that we never sold. And instead of getting fired, I ended up getting a raise, as they literally never knew that I threw away all this product. Here's how it went down. Okay, so back when I was in my early 20s, I worked at a grocery store that was owned by the chain Kroger. After working days for about 6 months, I was eventually moved to working the 11 to 7 or the 10 to 6 overnight shifts, and found that I really preferred them both for the clientele and for the different pace and not having to deal directly with the clueless general manager. One of the duties of the lone overnight checker was to restock all of the candy and snacks at the multiple checkout lanes. The candy was stored in the stairwell, giving the only access to the second floor office near the front of the store, which was an obvious fire hazard, by the way. Just picture this: 10 unopened cardboard boxes stacked along a not particularly wide stairwell, and you could imagine how messed up the whole thing was. Now, a lady who worked in the morning, who inventoried the candy remaining on the shelf, was a different person than the afternoon lady, whose job it was to occasionally, but almost never, inventory remaining candy in the stairwell. Then, daytime checkers were supposed to fill the lulls between customers by cleaning their check stations and by restocking candy by basically just grabbing whatever was handy at the bottom of the stairs, including opening up brand new packages to take out the individual sales packages inside to top up their aisles displays, meaning that over time, those 10 large cardboard boxes of candy each had a bunch of partial boxes and loose pieces inside of just random candy with no organization. Because I worked as the overnight checker, I was constantly getting notes attached to my time card from the general manager, who only had his job because he was golf buddies with the district manager and had never worked in a grocery store before 3 years before that, reminding me to sort out the mess by stocking the candy. One of the banes of my existence was the lady in the morning who was ordering a bunch of candy of cherry nibs. Apparently, it was part of a discount deal to buy a bunch of them, yet we barely sold any of them. There were unopened and partial boxes of them in every one of the larger boxes that held candy, as well as the crazy assortment of other candy. Finally, after about a dozen notes attached to my time card over the course of a month, I decided to act. One night, I pulled all the boxes down off the stairs and told the night manager that I was going to sort it all out for good, and he said that was totally fine. He was actually a cool guy who let me get work done and ran a very relaxed yet efficient shift. I then sorted all of the candy into chocolate, gum, suckers, basically by category, and all into about 6 labeled boxes. I then put all the stuff back in their proper boxes and then put all the rest of the candy in a cart along with the trash, as that was part of my job to take out from the registers at night. I then proceeded to throw away what I can only estimate was maybe $1,000 or more worth of candy, including about 90% of those stupid cherry nibs. I tossed them into the trash compactor in the back of the store with all of the trash on top of it so that the next person who would use it wouldn't notice a bunch of crushed candy and report me. Well, the next night when I clocked in, I was pleasantly surprised to find that instead of being fired, there was a note on my time card letting me know that I did a good job and that I would be getting a 25-cent an hour raise on my next paycheck, which really is hilarious considering the fact that they had no idea that I destroyed a lot of their product. Okay, I love the fact that the original poster did this because seriously, it sounds like they were not managing this well. The person ordering the food was picking out stuff that they probably liked, but no other customer did. So good for you for getting it sorted out, because this sounds incredibly obnoxious and I would hate to deal with that. My store maliciously complied with corporate after they didn't send us the proper items we needed so that we could sell Mother's Day products, resulting in one of the most awkward situations I've ever been in my life. Here's what went down. Okay, so years ago, I worked for a medium-sized retailer which sold all sorts of things, from confectionery to garden supplies, and the store had half an aisle near the front of the store dedicated to events, which were pretty much right in the customers' faces as they entered the store. Every few weeks, these event shelves would change over to a new department or be themed to any upcoming holidays or special days, such as Mother's Day or Halloween or stuff like that. Usually for these events, we would get the stock delivered the week before and spend that week taking out the old stock and replacing it with the new lines. If a new line was missing from the delivery, we would go and find a different line that would fit into that event from somewhere else in the store. One day in early April, we received an email from upper management. They said the following: "Do not replace missing event lines with any other line. lines. We emailed back to clarify because, of course, nearly every event delivery is missing at least one line. Do they want us to spread our other items out to fill the empty space or what? They said to us, just leave the space for any missing lines empty. Apparently, it will look like they have sold out. Barely a month later, while preparing for the Mother's Day event, we receive our regular delivery with no Mother's Day event lines. Not a single one. So we email upper management to let them know that we haven't received any of the event lines. They respond by saying that it will come in our next delivery and that we still should not fill any empty space. Well, needless to say, they did not arrive on the next delivery day either. We emailed them again informing them that we still had not received any event lines and heard nothing back. So we decided to do exactly what they asked. We cleared out the old event lines and left the entire event section completely empty for the entire 3-week period leading up until Mother's Day. After Mother's Day, during a conference call, they asked us why we had 0 sales for the event lines and why our sales for the period had dropped significantly. But we just referred them back to the other previous emails where we told them that we never received the delivery and they said not to fill the missing lines. And this is when the most deliciously sweet awkward silence began. After the call, one more email was sent out to everybody. Please use your best judgment when filling missing lines for events. And honestly, that was so satisfying because their policies to begin with were incredibly stupid. Yeah, that last line is literally them admitting that they're stupid and they don't know what they're doing. They didn't want to admit it because obviously they don't want to look like they did anything wrong, but it's also pretty obvious that they're the ones at fault. So good for you for putting them in their place because these people are complete morons. An entitled Karen freaks out on me after I refused to open up her burgers that she ordered just to see which one was which, as she had 2 different bags and didn't want to check it herself, resulting in one of the stupidest blow-ups I've ever seen in my life, as well as me literally being done with this job. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work at Burger King and today's Whopper Wednesday. And by the way, I'm typing this out while I'm on break. I'm handling drive-thru orders and things have been extremely busy today, and customers are coming and going without issue until a couple of minutes ago. This older woman, and who I'm assuming was her daughter or granddaughter, was in the drive-thru and had asked for her 2 combos in separate bags. And this is no issue. I separate the combos and I charge her order. After giving her change and holding the 2 bags in front of her, this woman then asked me which burger was which. I told her I didn't know, but that the cook had marked the wrappers for her to differentiate. She then tells me, very rudely by the way, that it's my responsibility to know which burgers were where, and to take the burgers out and open them to check. Now I'm dumbfounded with this request, and I tell her that I can't open the burgers because I have no gloves, and I had just handed her money. She then gets mad and tells me to just check the burgers already, but I repeated that I had no gloves and that she could check herself since my hands had just touched money. She then gets even more mad and demands a refund. So my manager comes in and the Karen berates me to her, saying how I didn't do what she had asked me to do, and how apparently I was the one with the attitude. But again, I had no gloves, and I had just touched money, and I refuse to touch food with no gloves, with what germs are on my hands. After getting her refund, my boss tells me next time to just do what the customer asked. And it's like, seriously, we were in the middle of a huge rush. I'm not going to the back where the gloves were at just to check this lady's order, because I have way more customers who actually want to be there for the right reasons, and I'm not going to hold everybody up all because of this stupid entitled Karen. Yeah, that kind of behavior is really disgusting. First of all, anyone who's ever dealt with money or worked in a bank knows how disgusting money is. I did work at a bank at one point in my life, and oh my gosh, it is really gross. Like, I wouldn't want to do anything else except for wash my hands at the end of the day. You're just handling and touching money, and money is so gross, dude. So in my opinion, I think the original poster did the right thing, especially when it comes to a customer's food, because who knows the kind of accusations this lady could have like thrown against you. And that, in my opinion, sounds like a bigger headache of her trying to be like, oh yeah, you poisoned my food, than just giving her a refund and getting her out the door. This next story comes from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. If you'd like to submit your own stories, check out the link in the description. Let's get started. Am I the jerk for starting my mini bike in my driveway, as well as taking it for a spin after my Karen neighbor blew up on me and physically attacked me? Because right now I'm wondering if I made a mistake or if I'm in the right. Here's how it went down. Okay, to start things out, I've been fixing up this mini bike for a while. It's just a basic pit bike and it needed a lot of work. I'm talking carb cleaning, rewiring the kill switch, adjusting the brakes, the chain lube, the works. It's been my little weekend project and honestly, something I'm really proud of. But last Saturday, I finally had it ready to go. The weather was nice, my tools were laid out, and my music was playing low on my Bluetooth speaker. I wheeled the mini bike out in the driveway, made sure everything was tight, and I gave the pull start a few solid yanks. And just like that, it came to life like a beast. It was loud, sure, but it was running perfectly, and I was super pumped. I let it idle for a minute while I checked the throttle response, made some adjustments, and then let out a satisfied breath. Well, that is until this entitled Karen enters the story from across the street. I hear that high-pitched, furious tone that just radiates entitlement. Turn that thing off right now. I turn around and there she is, storming across her lawn in sandals and rage. She's got that classic bob haircut, sunglasses on even though it's cloudy outside, and she's waving her phone around like she's already mid-call with the cops. I try to de-escalate by saying, hey, I'm sorry, it's just for a minute, I've just got to get it running. She then snaps at me and says, this is a family neighborhood. You're disturbing my baby and my dog. You can't run that thing here. I then respond super calm, I'm not riding it. I'm just making sure it runs. I'll be done soon. But apparently that wasn't enough. She stomps into my driveway, gets in my face, and then starts yelling at me. You little punks think you could do whatever you want. I should call the police. This is illegal. And then out of nowhere, she shoves me in the chest, like full on hand to chest. I stumble back stunned because honestly, who does that? I then held up my hands and I said, back off, don't touch me. But she steps up like she's about to do it again. So I give her one solid push, just enough to put some distance between us. Not violent, but instead just defensive. She then loses it and screams, you attacked me, you put your hands on me, and starts dialing her cell phone as if she's like reporting someone passing away. But then the hero moment steps in as my neighbor Mike across the street comes walking over. He says to the Karen, look, I saw the whole thing. He didn't touch you until you shoved him first, so you need to leave before this gets worse. Well, when he comes over, she looks like she just got caught stealing from a bake sale. Furious, red-faced, and flustered, she turns and storms off, still yelling about how she's calling the HOA, the police, and probably the FBI too. At this point, my adrenaline is pumping and I'm fired up. So what do? I look down to my idling mini bike, I throw my leg over it, twist the throttle, and I take off right off the driveway and around the block. I did a full loop at a casual pace. My helmet was on, my hoodie was flapping, and the engine was humming like a little chainsaw. I wasn't being reckless. I wasn't speeding or tearing up lawns. I was just sending a message. Neighbors looked out their windows and a few even smiled and waved. By the time I came back around, Karen was standing at the end of her driveway, arms crossed like she was expecting me to crash and beg for forgiveness. But you know what? I didn't say a word. I rolled right back into my driveway, I killed the engine, and I wheeled it over to the back of my 2002 Tahoe. I dropped the tailgate, I loaded it in, and I shut the door with the cleanest I win energy of my life. Later that day, her husband came over super apologetic. He said that she gets carried away sometimes, and asked if we could just let it go, and I told him, look, as long as she keeps her hands to herself, we are good. So on that note, I really need to know, am I the jerk for starting my mini bike in my driveway, and then riding it around the block after this Karen physically attacked me and tried to call the cops on me? Because at this point, I seriously have no regrets. Oh man, I can't believe this lady did that to you. First of all, it's really good that your neighbor across the street was watching over you, because you know for a fact that lady would have absolutely thrown you under the bus at the first opportunity. Because you know what? You had every right to defend yourself. This lady attacked you and pushed you. Like, who does that? That's not okay. You can't do that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because what you did, in my opinion, was incredibly funny. And this was the type of karma that this entitled Karen absolutely deserved. An entitled boomer mocked the fact that I was lactose intolerant and intentionally put milk in my coffee that I ordered, resulting in one of the most uncomfortable nights of my life. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I was at a restaurant with my family tonight in South Florida for my mom's birthday dinner. I ordered a mocha with oat milk, but the boomer server in his 60s barely spoke English and muttered to himself, "Stupid vegan," in Spanish when I tried to make my order. My dad, a native Spanish speaker, corrected him in Spanish and said that I'm lactose intolerant and that I'll get sick if I drink milk. Well, he just scoffed but said that he would put the order in. Immediately after dinner, I started getting a stomachache. By the time I got home, I had what can only be described as explosive diarrhea. And as I write this, I'm still suffering from extreme stomach cramps. Also, the restaurant advertises itself as an American restaurant. It's not Cuban or anything like that, and I just wanted to point that out. My dad ended up calling the restaurant in Spanish as no one there spoke English, and he got the server on the phone. He told my dad that vegan commies like myself are ruining Miami, and went on a weird tangent about how he escaped the Cuban Revolution, which really makes the whole not knowing English thing worse, given that if he escaped the revolution, he's been in America for over 50 years. Also, I'm not even vegan. My body literally just can't digest dairy. We ended up getting a manager on call that spoke English, and he said that he would talk to the boomer server. And there's honestly so many layers of issues here that it is completely crazy. That boomer should be in a nursing home, not working, and this restaurant shouldn't be hiring people that can't communicate with their customer base. It's truly one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in, and I honestly don't think I'm ever going back anytime soon. Okay, as someone who is lactose intolerant, this is really messed up. Because yeah, it can happen this violently and this fast if you're not careful. So the fact that this idiot was like, oh, you're just one of those stupid commies, one of these vegan people, you're ruining Miami. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I I just can't drink milk. Like, why would you do that to me? Because what this guy did is literally just unacceptable and you should not have had to deal with that. Am I the jerk for demanding that my unemployed roommate pay me back for the rent I paid after she bought a brand new MacBook? Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm the jerk and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my roommate and I have been living together for 2 years now. We split the rent 50-50, even though my room is slightly larger, but I cook more, so it evens out. She lost her job last month and asked if I could pay her share of the rent until she gets a new job. Well, I said yes since we are friends and times are really hard. Fast forward to yesterday and I come home from work and I see her unpacking a brand new MacBook and some other clothing that she had bought. And for reference, this MacBook cost over $2,000. I asked her where she got the money to buy this when she didn't even have a job, and she became defensive and told me her parents sent her money for her birthday. I then informed her that if she can afford luxury products, she should repay me the rent that I paid immediately. She then claimed the money from her parents is a gift exclusively for those products and that I volunteered without any conditions. I reminded her that I am not rich either, and I missed a weekend getaway with my friends in order to pay her rent. She then began crying and told me that I'm being materialistic and that I just simply do not understand her problem. I then discovered this morning that I received half the rent money in an envelope with a message stating that she'd pay the other half when she can, but she won't speak to me much anymore. I don't feel like I'm being unfair in demanding my money when she's spending money on non-necessities, but maybe I did take it a little bit too far because it makes me wonder if I'm the jerk in this situation. No, I'd be pretty pissed off if I paid all the rent and then suddenly my roommate's like, oh, I got a brand new MacBook. Like, dude, no way. I'm sorry. That's not gonna be okay with me. So no, you're not the jerk because I think I would feel the exact same way if I was in your shoes. An entitled Karen demands that I share all of my cookies that were meant for my friends with her daughter who literally is walking up right now to take it from me. But instead of giving in to this stupid Karen's demands, I decided to get some revenge by making this Karen look incredibly stupid in front of her kid, teaching her a lesson that I don't think she will ever forget anytime soon. Here's what happened. So today was my first time visiting a Crumble Cookies, and I bought 4 huge cookies to try and share with my friends. On my way home, I decided to enjoy the cookie that I had gotten for myself. I was sitting at one of the picnic tables where my condo is, and of course, my neighbor's friend shows up out of nowhere, who is, by the way, the entitled parent of this story. And I know they're entitled because, trust me, this is not the first time I've encountered her. So I'm looking at my phone and I'm eating my cookie, basically doing as many errands on my phone as I can, when suddenly I hear this entitled parent open her mouth. Look at that, Olivia, there's 3 giant cookies in there. And at this point, the entitled mom is pointing to my box of cookies. Why don't you go ahead and pick out one that you like? As we all know, it's very important to learn how to share with others. And this lady didn't share with you the last time we saw her. Maybe she's learned her lesson. Now, for a bit of backstory, the last time I encountered this woman, I had 2 candy canes because my blood sugar level was low, and I was on my way to a doctor's appointment because I am type 1 diabetic. I obviously did not give the child one of my candy canes because at the time, I needed it as a life-saving medicine. Anyways, I look up and this entitled mother is folding her arms and giving me the most smug look ever. Her kid then comes running up to grab a cookie out of my box, but I'm faster, and I immediately close the cookie box. And when I did this, the little girl seemed really shocked. The mom then lets out the most obnoxious grunt. Oh, come on, you don't need all those cookies. You didn't even share with her the last time you saw her. I'm trying to teach her manners and sharing. We share when we have more than what we need. Well, I look at the little girl, ignoring the mother, and I say to her, today I'm going to teach you another very important lesson. Can you please listen carefully? The cute little girl nods and I say to her, listen, you should never take food from a stranger. You should only take food from people you know, because for all I know, there could be something that you could be allergic to in these cookies, and that might make you very sick. And I don't want to give you something that might make you sick. I mean, you don't want that either, right? The little girl then nods her head and I smile at her. I also say, another thing I learned in life is that sometimes we can't always get what we want. So you might want one of my cookies, but for all you know, I have other people that I'm going to be sharing them with, and then they will be sad that they didn't get a cookie. We should always ask before taking things from someone else. I then tell her I'd be happy to share a piece of my candy with her if she asks me nicely the next time I see her, and if her mom can confirm that there's nothing in it that might make her have an allergic reaction. The little girl then smiles at me, says okay, and then thanks me. Well, after I did that, the look on the entitled mom's face was priceless. I think she probably would have slapped me upside the head, but I was using my wheelchair at the time because I had a flare-up, so thankfully that wouldn't have happened. And I don't know why, but it looks especially bad if you hit somebody using a wheelchair. Even more so if you do it in front of a large group of people, which there are plenty of people outside enjoying the nice weather today. I got enough satisfaction in not only teaching that kid lessons that she needs to learn, but then just by watching the entitled mother storm off and drag her daughter back into one of the other surrounding buildings. And yeah, I wasn't lying. I did get the cookies to share with my brother and friends. friends. Perhaps if they had asked me nicely, I wouldn't have mind sharing the one giant cookie I had bought for myself. But both times I've encountered this entitled mom, she has just told her kid to take something from me without even asking. That poor kid is going to grow up on the wrong path if she thinks she can get away with that kind of stuff. However, if the kid does happen to ask me nicely the next time I see her, I will follow through on my promise. I usually do have low blood sugar candy to spare on me, and I'll give her one of my little bags of Skittles if she really asks for it. But I'm seriously so sick of crazy entitled parents, and I'm glad this woman doesn't live here. I don't want to have to encounter her more than every once in a while, because this lady is the opposite of Mary Poppins, as she is very unpleasant in practically every single way possible. Oh man, I can't imagine being in that scenario because I do not think I would handle that well. Seriously, this entitled Karen walked up and was like, "You're gonna share with my kid whether you like it or not." And it's like, dude, I need this candy to live, not because I'm like giving it out for free. This is not Halloween, are you kidding me right now? So personally, I think you handled this really well, much better than what I would have done, because this Karen was completely out of line. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk doesn't let us stay at his Airbnb house, even though we booked it weeks in advance. So I decided to get some petty revenge by not only getting a full refund and a free place to sleep, but I also got this guy banned from the app altogether. Here's what happened. So in around 2019, I had a friend coming to visit for St. Patrick's Day. Now, I'm Irish, but he's actually from Hong Kong. Given that I'm local, I said I would take care of booking accommodations, etc. And when I went on, of course, as usual, everything was like $50,000. I mean, welcome to Dublin. And obviously, things were maxed out due to it being Paddy's weekend. But I found one spot in Blackrock, which isn't the city center, but it is only a few stops away from the Dublin area rapid transit. And on top of that, this place was going for $68 per night. So I booked it right then and there. Well, the following morning, I got a notification from Airbnb saying the host wanted to up the price to $288, and if I would accept that. I clicked no, and I figured, okay, well, he's already accepted our booking, and I don't have to say yes to this. I then waited a few weeks until the weekend in question, and then it came along. My friend landed in Dublin Airport, we made our way to Blackrock, got to the door, rang the doorbell, and then nothing. There was no car in the driveway, and nobody was home. We hung around for 40 minutes until the host arrived, and he literally wouldn't even look us in the eye. I said, "Hi, we've booked to stay here for this weekend," and he mumbled something about how no one was staying there, and that he was sorry, and then he went inside. Well, with that, I got straight onto Airbnb. They offered us our money back, and I said no. That's not good enough. Everywhere else is $50,000. What are we gonna do with $68? So they offered us double, and I still said no. We need a place to stay. So they booked us into a lovely house elsewhere that was closer to the city center. But you know what? That's not all. I made an official complaint about the host and how he screwed us over. And you know what? They actually booted him off the application. So for trying to fleece a couple of 20-something lads, he had to stop renting his place out entirely. Well, I'm a petty guy, so every couple of months I randomly think about this and I check to see if he's back online yet. And as of May of 2025, he still is not. So overall, I've cost him about 6 years of Airbnb rent and counting, and truly, this is something that you just love to see. Dude, I would be so pissed if I was in the original poster shoes. Imagine booking an Airbnb for the price that, you know, it was advertised for, only to then show up and be told that no, you don't actually have a reservation. Like, I would go bananas. There's no way I would put up with that. So I really love the fact that they got kicked off the app, because truly, if that's the way they're going to conduct their business, then they should not be on Airbnb in the first place. A water main burst in my school, resulting in my classroom filling up with water. But once I started dumping the water out of my room through the window, I not only got in trouble with my supervisor, but I also lost my job as a high school science teacher. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I'm a high school science teacher, and a few years back, a water main burst in my classroom. I saw the drain was clogged, so I sent the majority of the class to the library and grabbed some students I knew could handle themselves from coaching wrestling and football. I had them help carry water to the window in trash cans while I called building and grounds. A few minutes later, a maintenance guy came in and yelled at me, told everyone to leave, and that we should let the water fill the class until the pressure cleared the blockage in the drain. Now, the water pressure did not clear the blockage in the drain, and the whole hallway on both sides flooded, as did the hallway beneath it. Mold eventually grew, and we had to shut down over 40 classrooms for over a year. There wasn't enough classroom space, and we had to split the student body in half and have one group come in at 5 o'clock in the morning to 11, and the other come in at 11 to 5. The repair cost the district over $15 million. All spring sports were canceled for the year. The next year's fall sports were canceled too, and in a lot of ways, the district never recovered. I also got a load of crap from my supervisor, a VP, and the school principal in the immediate aftermath, and wasn't brought back the next year. I then got offered my old job back when they realized how much damage I was trying to prevent. But at this point, I was already moving on to greener pastures because trust me, I do not need that kind of energy in my life. Okay, dude, whoever's like the ground supervisor for that school is a complete idiot. This guy was really like, oh no, we need to flood everything. The pressure's gonna fix the drain. But it's like, dude, there's literally water in my classroom. Why the heck would I keep that there? Just dump it out the window. Like, are you stupid? Like, that's so ridiculous, the fact that they would freak out on you about that. Not to mention your supervisors and the principal being like, yeah, you've got to go. We've got to fire you now. And then once they realized that you were not the problem, they try to be like, oh yeah, you can come back for your job. Like, if anyone pulled that kind of crap on me, I would never go back. Like, there's no way in the world. Because if they can fire you over something as stupid as this, then trust me, they can absolutely do it again. Am I the jerk for refusing to tip a street musician who did a supposed private performance for me and my date, despite the fact that I never asked for it or wanted it? Because right now, my date is making me feel really guilty and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so last weekend, I went on a 4-day trip to Madrid. On Friday, I met a guy in my hotel, let's call him Matt for the sake of the story, who asked me out for lunch on Saturday, and I said yes, and I was quite excited for it. Matt chose a cute little outdoor cafe and eatery, which really was so perfect. The vibes were there and everything was flowing nicely. Well, that was until a guy with a guitar showed up. I know I'm probably in the minority, but I don't like street performances. I'm on a date or in this historical place because I want to focus on the people I'm with and the setting I'm in. I don't mind if someone's doing their thing too, musically or otherwise, but I don't want to stop and watch them, and I certainly don't want them coming up to me. So anyways, this guy approached and he just started singing in English and improvising a tune about me and my date. He even asked Matt our names so he could work them into the song. Matt seemed to be enjoying the performance, but I was just waiting for it to end and kind of annoyed that we'd been interrupted. Well, after about 5 minutes, the guy finished and then asked for a tip. Now, Matt gave him one, but I politely declined, as honestly, I would have just paid for this not to happen in the first place. Well, the performer started getting upset with me, and then Matt started agreeing with him, saying that we had been given a really cool private experience, and it's only right to tip the guy for it. But you know what? I held my ground. But needless to say, the date was ruined, and we awkwardly rushed through the rest of it. And now I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. Like, yes, this performer gave us his time and effort into making a custom song, and he wasn't bad. But also, I didn't want or ask for it. I wouldn't be doubting myself, except for Matt, who otherwise seems like a really reasonable guy, and was very much on the side of the street performer. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, dude, this 100% sounds like a scam. I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat for a second because I seriously think something's going on here. What if, and just hear me out, what if Matt was on the side of the performer because they worked together on this kind of scam? Like, seriously, you meet this guy on a 4-day trip to Madrid, you agree to go on a date with this guy, and then you just so happen to end up right where this performer is? Like, come on, this seems like a massive setup altogether. Like, why else would Matt be like, no, you have to give the performer money? Like, come on. It's like, dude, I don't have to do anything. And you know what? Even if Matt isn't in on it, and this isn't some kind of like weird conspiracy, a performer walking up to you while you're literally on a date and trying to drag you into their performance is like akin to that one guy on the side of the street who's trying to wash your window and be like, okay, you gotta pay me now. It's like, no, dude, go away. You're literally disturbing me. This is no longer a performance, and it's slowly becoming like a police matter. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing to tip this stupid musician, because I'm right there with you. I don't like street performances either, especially if they're gonna be pushy and try to beg you for money in the way that this guy did. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories, because we would love to see what you have to say. Let's get started. Am I the jerk for snapping at my mom's friend after she demanded that I give her a ride home? Here's how it all happened. Okay, to start things out, I went to my parents for a celebration party today. These parties happen several times a year, and a group of family friends gather, not always at my parents' house, but mostly. This has been going on since I was a child, and a main group remains the same. A couple years back, a lady started coming to those parties, not always, but quite often. And I have to say, I do not like this lady. She's in her 70s, she's really annoying, inserting herself into every conversation, and yet manages to bring nothing into it. She keeps coming out with nonsense facts, etc., and it gets worse as she drinks. I just genuinely cannot stand her, but I am polite and I'm civil, and I try to ignore her for the sake of peace. Well, today, my mom approached me, asking if I could maybe give her a ride home, even though she lives half a mile from my parents' house, and this is because plans for her to stay overnight fell through, all due to out-of-town unexpected guests. And you know what? Initially, I said no. As night progressed and people kept getting drunker, I decided to leave. I had a full day, I was tired, and still had half an hour drive home. Plus, my dog was alone most of the day. Well, my mom then pulled me aside and started guilt-tripping me into taking the lady home, as apparently she mentioned earlier to my mom she will ask me for a ride. My mom was pleading, and I finally said, okay, well, let's see if she asks me. I gathered my things and I went to put them outside, and the lady was out smoking with a couple of people, and she says to me, "Oh, I didn't know that you would be leaving so soon. I'm going with you." I then said to her, "Excuse me, was that a question or a statement?" She then shrugs her shoulders and says, "It's a statement. It is only half a mile. I'm coming with you." So I responded by saying, "Well, it would be great if you could actually ask me, as I'm not a taxi service, nor do I work for you." This lady looked at me and said, "But I am a straightforward person." But at that point, I cut her off and I said, "That's not being straightforward. That is showing a lack of respect. You should ask someone for a favor. Don't tell them they are doing it for you." My mom then chimed in and the lady was laughing, which I took as a nervous laugh for being called out, and the last couple of sentences of the conversation got repeated. She then said to me, "I'm sorry if I offended you." And I said back, "Well, that would be better without the if." My mom then took her side, as she has a tendency to push me towards disrespect and being a doormat for people that she needs or wants around her. I also have to add that I didn't yell, but I was very firm. I have people in my life I've been friends with forever, and even my parents I ask if I can come over or get a ride if they can help, and I would never just tell them that they're going to be doing something for me. I am sure I will be getting the cold shoulder from my mom for weeks to come, but in this case, am I the jerk for snapping at this lady? Because right now, I'm honestly still pretty frustrated. Before we go any further, the original poster actually gave us an update to what happened in this story. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who took the time to read and comment. I've been reading Reddit for a while, and I thought, why not ask for an opinion? To answer some questions in the comments, I have no idea how the lady got to the party. I also did not give her a ride in the end, as she never asked for one. Distance did not make a difference. Even if it was 20 miles or 10, I would have done it if only she had asked me and not told me that she was coming along. Even if she turned her statement into a joke and said something like, "Yeah, of course I'm asking," as people can get arrogant when they're drunk, I still would have done it. And by the way, this is not the first situation where this lady dumps her transportation problems literally on everybody else, or even makes some kind of rude or entitled comment. Many of you commented on my mom, and you were completely right. She does have emotional issues and narcissistic traits, and does sacrifice my well-being and my time just to accommodate her friends by using guilt tripping and manipulation. And trust me, that's an entire story in and of itself, and it took me years to start saying no. For years, I tried talking, asking her for therapy, sending articles, but nothing works. So finally, I focused on myself, and it is a continuous work. However, I no longer see these situations as a favor to her, but rather another attempt to control. I do know she fueled the situation, but in the end, that is another story and another relationship. I've also seen comments of why I hang out with my parents' friends, and I guess I need to clarify because I never said they were only my parents' friends. These are family friends that I've known since childhood or for decades, and this lady is new to the group, and I am in no way close to her or just don't even really know her that well. So I can assure you, I have plenty of my own friends and parties. Now, for those of you saying that I was the jerk or rude, I don't disagree, but I have tried many other ways in these situations, and whether it's talking or keeping the peace, or even just saying no does not work with people like that, but instead sets up for bad treatment in the future. Quick and firm but kind of rude responses seems to have the best results, despite the age, the gender, or whatever else is another reason that might cause them to try and work me over. Now, when it comes to an update from a friend today, someone was coming to pick up one of the friends from the party and actually took this entitled lady back home, but this time she did ask for a ride. So in the end, I would like to think that maybe she got the point and hopefully will change her attitude in the future. Okay, I love this story so much because it feels like a masterclass in how to set boundaries. You're never in the wrong for being like, no, I'm not going to do that, and you're being rude. Because in my opinion, some people just need to be called out. Like seriously, some people just don't know where the line is, and they feel like they can push someone until they get what they want. And that's really messed up. I don't care who you are, like that is not okay. So good for the original poster for setting some clear boundaries and putting this entitled Karen in her place, because her crappy attitude is something that no one should ever have to deal with. Am I the jerk for not helping my girlfriend when she claimed she was being stalked by my exes? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So me and my girlfriend have been in a relationship for about 4 months, but before that, we were best friends for about 4 years. And when I say best friends, I mean it. We would be with each other 24/7, and she would tell me everything that happened to her. During those 4 years, I have been in many relationships, but for this story, only 2 are important. When I was about to turn 21, I was in a relationship with a girl that I will call Shannon for the sake of the story. Shannon and I dated for about a month and a half, but we realized that we have different goals in life, and she did not want to be with someone who has different goals, since she is religious and doesn't want to be in a relationship if it will not end in marriage. I respected her decision, and we broke up on what I thought was good terms. Then, about 2 months later, I got into another relationship with a different girl who I will call Mia. Mia and I dated for like a month, but we really rushed into it and things just didn't work out. We realized that we were just not that compatible, and maybe we could work as friends, but nothing else. We then just broke it off, and I didn't really date anyone until this point. When me and my girlfriend got into a relationship, things were great for 3.5 months, but she became really distant lately and I was getting worried. This never happened before, so I asked her, okay, what's up? Are we okay? And she said that we're good, but then like 2 days later, she became distant again. Now, obviously something was going on, so I asked her again and she admitted that she was being stalked. Well, I became really worried and I asked her more about it. I was expecting to hear something like, oh, she was being followed home, but what she said really surprised me. She told me that Shannon and Mia were stalking her. I then asked her how, like what do they do? And she told me that they were liking my stories and looking at them, but they don't even follow me. And honestly, I did not think it was anything serious because how is that stalking? Oh, they looked at your stories. I mean, how will you sleep at night? And that's when I told her I thought it was more serious than that. After I said that, she became really mad. She told me, how do you think it would feel if my exes were looking at your stories and if they always liked them? But seriously, first of all, why are you so mad about them looking at your story? It's not that deep. Okay, they look at your story. And what happens then? Absolutely nothing. And also, the block button is right there. Just hit that one button and then every single problem is finished. Secondly, if I was getting stalked like that by her exes, I really would not care. Oh no, 2 extra guys are looking at my story. Oh god, I'm being stalked. It just seems so internet addicted. Why is a big part of your day looking at who views your story and who likes them? It's just a shallow way of getting attention. I told her to just block them and then there would be no problems. But she does not want to do it because she doesn't want to have beef with random people. And it's like, what does that even mean? I'm so confused right now. Like, okay, you don't want to fight with random people over this, but you decide that it would be amazing if you got mad at your boyfriend about this and told him to roll over dead at the end of the argument. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. She has 2 extra people liking her stories and is making it sound like it's the end of the world. Also, the 2 girls wouldn't do anything to her in real life. One of the girls is religious and the other one is like 45 kilograms and she's maybe 150 centimeters tall. The reason that I think they are stalking her is because they think that me and my girlfriend got into a relationship way sooner, since we were always together and we just now made it public. So they think that I cheated on both of them with my current girlfriend, which isn't true at all. But seriously, how do I go explaining that to them? What does she even want me to do? Go DM my ex to stop looking at my girlfriend's profile, which is public by the way? Like, get a grip. It just seems so unnecessary. Just block her and get it over with. We haven't talked for about 3 days because of this, and I'm starting to worry if I might be the jerk in this situation, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, no, your girlfriend is not being stalked, and I don't think there's any problem here. Like, seriously, just block the people and get it over with. I'm 100% on the original poster side. Yeah, it seems like the exes are trying to like start some kind of drama and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna follow everything that your new girlfriend's doing. But like, seriously, just block them and then it's done. Like, what's the problem here? If you really feel like they're following you and you want me to do something about it, like if I was in the original poster shoes, I would happily message the exes and be like, look, leave my girlfriend alone. I never cheated on you. There was nothing like that. And I'm happy with my girlfriend, so leave her alone. But to sit there and be like, oh, I'm being stalked by your exes, what do I do? And then not like the answer that you give, in my opinion, is really short-sighted. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think the way your girlfriend is acting, in my opinion, is a little bit over the top. My entitled, toxic father quite literally broke my daughter's phone and is now refusing to pay for it. And now I'm being called the jerk all because I'm demanding that he pay for it, as it simply would be the right thing to do. But with my family turning against me, I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I have a 17-year-old daughter, and my dad is in his 70s. For some background, my father has always struggled with being responsible with money. He's always spent irresponsibly, never really saved, purchased things impulsively, and has occasionally gambled. He's currently in limbo between being broke and being barely not broke. Well, yesterday, me and my daughter went to visit him and my mom for an early Mother's Day celebration. My daughter spent time alternating between being on her phone and sketching while me and my parents were talking. About 2 hours into the visit, she asked if I had a phone charger, as it was getting low, and she wanted to get some charge on it before the car ride home. My daughter has an iPhone and I have an Android, so we use different chargers, so mine didn't fit. My dad has a very cheap and old phone and offered his charger. My daughter explained though that because it was a similar style to my charger, it simply wouldn't work. She then left her phone on the counter and went into the living room. We then spent the rest of the visit watching TV with my mom in the living room while my dad was in the kitchen. When it was time to leave, my daughter went to grab her phone and started screaming and crying. I then ran in and I saw that my daughter's charging port was completely destroyed. The bottom of the screen was cracked and the lower phone frame was dented. My dad casually mentioned that he tried to charge her phone for her and that simply didn't work. I then yelled at my dad and asked him how he did not realize the phone was breaking. He said he was too focused on trying to push the charger in. I then told him that he's either going to pay for a new phone or a repair, depending on which option is deemed better. He then started arguing with me, saying that he can't afford to buy an iPhone phone, and that my daughter can go without a phone for a while. But I argued back that my daughter does need her phone for communication with friends and family, and also for safety as we track each other with Life 360. On top of that, I'm not going to make her go without her phone because he broke it. My parents are calling me a jerk for demanding the money from them, saying that I'm taking money from poor old people. And yes, they pulled that card. But they're not going to go into poverty if they pay for this. And instead, my dad just won't be able to gamble. They always pay their bills and have food, but don't have much left over afterwards. My dad usually always blows the leftover money immediately, and my brother and sister are saying that I should just pay for the phone myself, and that my daughter's a spoiled brat for throwing a tantrum over not having her phone 24/7. So seriously, am I really that much of a jerk for demanding that he pay for a phone that he broke? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Oh my gosh, there's no way on earth I would ever let this slide. Seriously, your dad broke the phone. And by the way, how did he do that? Like, he had to have been like slapping that phone on the tabletop or really jamming that charger in there and being like, well, why isn't it working? Meanwhile, the freaking phone is breaking in his hand. Like, are you kidding me right now? This guy literally was just completely unaware of what he was doing, and that's so unacceptable. So no, you are not the jerk for making your dad pay for this. He's the one that broke it, nobody else. Any other point they're trying to bring up about whether your daughter's spoiled or not, or if she just can't live without her phone, or them trying to be like, oh, but we're old, you're gonna put us in poverty. It's like, dude, none of that matters. The only thing that matters here is that these people need to pay for it because they broke it. Because I guarantee you, if the shoe was on the other foot, then this absolutely would be your fault, and there's no way you would ever get out of it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I left some money on my desk that mysteriously went missing, and now no one in my family is confessing to taking it, leaving me in a hard place where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a 25-year-old female, and this year I had to move back with my parents for monetary reasons. I am no deadbeat, I have a job, and I pay the bills and the groceries twice a week to contribute. My mother doesn't want me paying more and is happy to lend me some money when things are rough since she has a good job. However, this weekend I left with my friends for a trip to a country where euros are not used. So I left 90 euros on top of my desk under the corner of my mat, and they were very visible. Well, when I came back, they were gone. I asked my family, namely my mom, my father, and my 10-year-old brother, thinking that someone might need them and took them, or that someone didn't want to go to the ATM to go get cash, but everyone says no. I looked through my whole room, every purse, jacket, and corner, and I simply cannot find the money. The thing is, I wouldn't mind giving it away if they had asked me. I am living in their house, but I feel hurt that they took it without saying anything to me, and this is not a small amount. I suspect that my father took it, and since he lies constantly, he won't admit it. He doesn't have a job and was always obsessed with money. My problem is that when I brought this up on Monday, it triggered a fight where it was said, oh, it's not me, how could you say that? And at this point, I do not know what to do, but I want someone to come clean about this. At this point, it's not about the money, even if it is a lot for me, but about trusting and lying to me. What should I do? Okay, I gotta be honest with you, I don't think you're ever getting an answer to that money ever again, but hopefully this is a lesson for the future that no, you can't trust any of these people with your money. They're literally gonna take it and run away and be like, I didn't take it, how dare you accuse me? Like, at that point, you might as well put your money in the bank and be like, okay, I can never have cash on hand, and I no longer trust you people because my god, you already stole 90 euros from me, which yeah, that's a lot of money, I don't care who you are. So hopefully in an ideal world, somebody comes clean, but in my opinion, I would not get your hopes up. My boomer father saved a whole $2,000 by not hiring movers, but exchanged that for literally having to do everything himself, and I'm still blown away by how hard he made this for himself, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. My boomer dad has always done things the hard way. He's the type to take pride in driving 24 hours straight to Florida instead of just getting a motel room, or he will DIY an unpleasant task that's cheaply and easily outsourced. He pretty much never passes up an opportunity to make things as hard as possible. It made for some pretty miserable childhood experiences when we had no choice but to be dragged along with his terrible priorities and awful plans. Fast forward to present day, and my parents are in their early 70s, and they're moving into a retirement community apartment from a house, and my dad decides he's going to get a U-Haul and do it himself, with a couple of guys helping out for a few hours one day instead of hiring movers. Apparently, $2,000 is too much to pay for something he can do himself. My mother is disabled, and my father is in decent shape. He owns a pickup truck to move smaller stuff, but he's still 73 years old. He had a bad case of bursitis in his knee recently. He's had shoulder surgery. He physically can move his own house, but he really shouldn't. I attempted to tell him this, but my mom reminded me that he can't be told anything, and now he's just gonna commit harder to prove a point. I told her the only point he's proving is that he is stubborn and makes bad decisions, but I'm gonna advocate for sane choices. And my husband and I would not be helping with anything that movers would do. I could help organize and unpack the new place, but they were not making their bad decision my problem. We just moved ourselves in December and it was exhausting enough with movers. Add to this that they have an absurd amount of stuff and the typical boomer mentality that everything is still worth what they paid for it and they might need it later. Imagine a house where every time they get a new set of dishes, they shoved it into a cabinet along with every dish set they've ever owned. But apply that to everything from jackets to bed sheets. They parted with a lot of things beforehand, but it was probably 1/3 of what they really needed to purge. They also moved over too much to the new place, including obvious trash, lots of expired food, empty jars, faded towels, etc. Well, they've been moving for 2 weeks so far. The house is empty, but the basement still has stuff in it, and the large detached garage and shed are still full. I spent 4 full days helping them empty the attached garage, sort stuff out between what we're gonna keep, what we're gonna throw in the trash, and what we're gonna donate, unpack boxes, and attempt to set up and organize the new apartment, all while my mom fought me on every little thing. She moved and argued to keep flax seeds that expired in 2015 as one example. The house needs a total remodel and renovation, but it's in a highly desirable area. They got an offer the first weekend on the market for $800,000 cash, which was 2 weeks before closing and no inspection. The buyer plans to completely remodel and renovate over the summer before moving in. Yesterday, I told my dad that means they're going to gut it, and he can toss the old paint and supplies for cleaning the pellet stove. Well, this man looked at me and proudly told me he's going to clean it anyways. Even though it won't be inspected, they don't care about the condition of it, and they are almost certainly going to tear it out and replace it. He said to me, "It's not in my nature to turn over the house with the pellet stove dirty." They paid $200,000 for that house. It was totally paid off. They gained $600,000 in equity, but even then, they wouldn't spend $2,000 on movers. My dad has spent more on boat parts for his classic boat without even batting an eye, and they're moving and cleaning garbage. I'm mostly angry at myself for helping it all, but I'm honestly done. Way too much boomer nonsense for me to even pretend like I want to deal with it. Yeah, that sounds really frustrating. I can't stand that kind of attitude where it's like, oh, I'm gonna be proud about this simply because I can. It's almost like they're trying to win stupid brownie points that nobody asked about, nor is anybody keeping track of. Like that stupid pellet stove, for example. The person buying is not inspecting anything, so cleaning it is quite literally pointless. So yeah, this sounds super frustrating, and I just don't understand that mentality of not hiring a mover, because that really is the logical choice, especially if you have the money. An entitled old man yells at me for opening on time, saying that I'm too stupid to be a manager and that I have the easiest job in the world. Things got so heated that he even said he was going to report me to management, even though I literally did nothing wrong. Here's what went down. Okay, so this is mostly a rant about some entitled old man expecting me to open 40 minutes early just for him. So I work at a pastry-style shop that opens at 12 o'clock. I came in at around 11:10, so a little later than I usually would. We only have one person working per shift, so we definitely use the entire hour to open. Well, this dude comes up at 11:20, banging on the door, nonstop jiggling the doorknob, and getting his nasty breath fog on the door. Now, this was for 3 minutes nonstop, and eventually I came to the door. I said, "I'm sorry, we open at 12 o'clock. As you can see, the door is locked and the signs are off." He said, "Well, I need my pastries now." I said to him, "Sorry, but the doors will be unlocked at 12 o'clock, and I proceeded to then shut the door. He then comes back at 12 o'clock on the dot, already with a mission of destruction. He says I'm obviously too stupid to be a manager, and that I have the easiest job in the world, and it would be no problem for me to open early. But I basically just ignored him. I'm not going to apologize for opening on time. I packaged his pastries and I told him his total, and he continued to belittle me the entire transaction. Eventually, he was getting ready to leave, and I said to him, "You're welcome," and of course, he got mad at that too. He said, "Where's my thank you?" And it's like, dude, where's my thank you? So with the biggest smile, I said, "Thank you so much and have the best day," and he finally just left after that. He then said he was going to report me to management, but I already messaged my managers and they said not to let him in again. And my God, the entitlement of some people truly baffles me. Oh man, this is so crazy to me because there's no way I would have even served him in the slightest. I would not have allowed him to buy anything. I would have said, "Oh, I'm an idiot and my job's easy and I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, okay, yeah, get out of the store." The second he called me stupid is the second I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm not helping you. You can get out. Go to another pastry store and maybe learn some manners next time." Because this guy's behavior was completely unhinged and there was no good excuse for that. My boyfriend resents me because my family supports me financially, whereas his family simply doesn't. And at this point, I'm so tired of being called misprivileged that I really feel like I'm at a crossroads and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my My boyfriend often makes snide remarks about how my family supports me financially and calls me privileged for it. For reference, we've been together for 2 years. Now, I'm an only child, my family isn't rich, but we share what we have with each other. Before my current boyfriend, I was with an ex that painted himself as a good guy up until I moved across the country with him, and he isolated me, mistreated me, stole all my money, and knocked me up. I have a 2-year-old daughter with him, but I was able to escape the situation when I was 5 months pregnant. My parents bought my plane ticket home and welcomed me with open arms. They assumed full financial responsibility for my child and I, so that I could be a stay-at-home mom on top of spending time to heal and going back to college to finish up my degree and work when I'm ready. Well, my boyfriend comes from an affluent family. However, his father passed away 2 years ago, and he was the sole breadwinner for the family, and it turned his family's life upside down. His mother is now living off the money lent from other family members, and she's also got Social Security as she is in her 70s and can't work. He works under the table at a place that doesn't pay hourly. It's literally just based on commissions. He's there for about 10 plus hours some days, but if there's no customers, he doesn't get paid a penny. On a good day, he'll make about $70, but that is so disproportionate to what he should be making for that amount of time worked. He is really angry about not having much money, but also refuses to look for another job out of loyalty to his boss, who is also his friend. He's always upset about being late on payments, as well as his mom asking him for money. I feel bad for him, and I try to be as understanding as I can, and I know he's under a lot of stress financially, and I never ask him for anything or expect anything from him. I just want his company. Anyways, he's been making more and more jabs at me about being misprivileged for taking handouts from my parents and not having to work while he works 5 days a week and is still struggling to make ends meet. All my parents help me out with is my $25 a month phone bill, as well as providing food and clothing from the thrift store for my daughter. I left everything I had when I left my ex, and I came home to my parents and lived minimalistically, but my boyfriend had many payments he's responsible for, namely the car, the phone, the credit card, student loans, helping his mom, etc. I'm trying to be empathetic towards him, and I know he has it much harder than me, but there's nothing I can do about it, and I don't think that I should be ashamed for having a family that takes care of me when I'm down. So is there a way to navigate this and put an end to this weird, jealousy that he has? I feel that the only way he'll be happy is if I struggle alongside with him, but I seriously don't want to or need to do that because at this point I really don't know what to do. Dude, your boyfriend sounds super toxic. Seriously, who in their right mind would be like, oh wow, you're just so privileged. Your family cares about you and you get money. Good for you. Wow. Oh man. Like, dude, what are you talking about? This is your girlfriend. Why are you treating her like the enemy? She didn't do anything to you. She's not the reason you have all these problems. If anything, it sounds like the original poster wants to be supportive of their boyfriend, but instead he's taking it out on her in some kind of weird jealous rage. And this, by the way, is absolutely gonna ruin this relationship if he's not careful, because I know if I had a partner who did this, I would be very pissed off. So yeah, this is super sketchy, and this is definitely a red flag that I would not ignore. I sold my laptop to an old friend at a huge discount, but now his girlfriend is interfering and saying that he'll only pay for it if he gets the laptop first. And I'm now at a point where I'm questioning my entire friendship with this guy, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 29-year-old female, and I've been friends with this guy for over 10 years. We met in an online game, we live in different cities, and have met in person a couple of times. And this is usually when I visit his city with my boyfriend. But even still, we have been through a lot together. I supported him through some really hard times. When he broke up with his ex and wanted to move out of his parents' house, I offered him my apartment for way below market price, essentially just covering utilities like water, electricity, and heating. I lent him money, about $500 with no fixed repayment deadline. I even helped him get into a free training program for a new profession, as he does only have a high school diploma, and now I'm trying to get him an internship at my workplace under my recommendation so that he can move up from his tech support job. He and his girlfriend are barely scraping by. I also never kept score. I always considered him a real friend, and yes, he's been there for me too, whether it's advice or just a listening ear when things are rough. There was a time when he was desperate to move out of his parents' house but couldn't afford rent. At the same time, I had an apartment I was renting out, and as I mentioned, I offered it to him for whatever he could afford, but he declined for various reasons. The first red flag came when he decided to move 1,532 miles away for a girl he had never met in person. I mean, he decided to move in with this girl he'd only known for about 6 months and live with her. He said he needed money for rent, he needed plane tickets, etc. And then he asked me for a loan. I even suggested they both move to my city instead. Of course, it's not my place to decide, but it seems so strange to me. She's only moving 50 miles from her hometown, while he's leaving everything behind. Things like friends and family, and moving 1,500 miles to be completely dependent on her. But he had already made up his mind. So I gave him the money again without asking for a return date, and I just said, okay, send it back whenever you can. Still, it really stung. I live way closer, only 930 miles from him, just a 2-hour flight away. I had invited him multiple times to visit, not to move in or anything, just to hang out, meet my dog, grab a meal together, but he never did. So I said to myself, okay, we're just friends, I get it. Fast forward to now, and I listed my old but perfectly still functioning MacBook Pro for sale. I initially wanted to sell it for about $800, and half jokingly, I sent him the listing and offered to sell it to him. It turns out he really wanted a MacBook and had been checking listings but couldn't afford even a used one. I asked how much he could pay, and he said $650. I offered it to him for $530 just as a friendly gesture, and he said he didn't have the full amount up front and asked to pay in 6 monthly installments. And you know what? I agreed. Then I went on vacation. My boyfriend and I were working on the house, relaxing, and I just started looking for the best way to ship the laptop. I had never shipped electronics before, and I wanted to make sure it would be safe. I found some old boxes and some old foam and ordered some additional supply seal tape for security reasons. Amazon, of course, delayed the delivery, so shipping was pushed back a little bit. Now, at this point, he had not made the first payment yet, so I asked when he could, and he said May 7th. Well, by May 10th, I got my shipping supplies, and I told him I'd sent the laptop over the weekend. And that's when he messaged me, okay, once you ship it, I'll send you the money. Now, at this point, I laughed and I teased him about not trusting me, but then he explained that it wasn't him, it was his girlfriend. She had told him not to send me the first payment of $100 until he received the laptop, and he just passed it on to me like it was totally a reasonable argument. Well, she said to wait until it arrives, and it's at that moment that it finally hit me. I'm not some random stranger from Craigslist. I'm his friend, someone he's known and trusted for over a decade. So what would you do in my place? Given everything I've done for my friend, I'm starting to wonder, what if someday his girlfriend just tells him to cut me off and he agrees? What should I do? Okay, this is really sketchy because it sounds like for a while now, your friend has been using you and not reciprocating this in the slightest. Like, this guy's always asking you for money or favors, and yet the second you're like, hey, can you pay me back in a timely manner? He pulls this weird card of like, oh yeah, as soon as you ship it over. And it's like, dude, wait a second, this is not fair at all. You need to pay for the item I'm sending you. This is expensive. Not to mention the fact that he still owes you money from a loan. Like, what's going on right now? Where does this guy get off expecting he can get away with stuff like this? So for me, the second he would start acting like this is the moment I would be like, okay, I don't think he's actually my friend. The care I'm showing him is not being reciprocated, and this is not worth my time. Because truly, it sounds like he doesn't care about you in the same way that you care about him. And in my opinion, at least if I was in your shoes, this really would be the last time I would help him out with something like this. An entitled old jerk nearly hits me with her car, all while I'm riding my bike. So I decided to get some revenge by riding close to her car and pretending to key it as I drove off. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I was riding my bike today on a road that is somewhere between a side road and a connecting road. The speed limit is 35 miles an hour, but it rarely gets up that fast at the time I was riding on it. I generally follow all traffic laws. I ride with my helmet on, etc., but I do try to be cognizant and non-obstructive of traffic. Where I enter this road, traffic is usually going about the speed limit or slightly slower. About a mile past that though, it slows down significantly. It terminates in a busier intersection, so there's usually a long line of cars going 5 to 10 miles an hour after that. Shortly before reaching the slowed cars, an old lady laid on her horn as she passed me, and passed obnoxiously close too. I mean, I could have literally kicked her car, she was so close. Normally, I would just take a place behind a car and follow the flow of traffic to my destination, which is before the intersection. However, the lady was only a few cars ahead, so I rode up the shoulder right next to her. I got her attention and I held up my keys, then made it look like I was keying her car. Well, she started flipping out as I flipped her off and I rode off into the sunset. I was on an e-bike and she was stuck in traffic, so there's no way she was ever going to catch up with me. I wouldn't actually damage someone else's property like that. You know, who needs that kind of exposure? But I do hope that she took some time after that to evaluate her actions. Oh man, I love this so much because seriously, you were not doing anything wrong. You're literally just riding your bike and I'm assuming out of the way. Like you said it yourself, you're cognizant of what's going on and you're non-obstructive to traffic. So the fact that you got back at this old lady who was just trying to like mess with you, in my opinion, is absolutely amazing. My crazy neighbor quite literally poisons the water that goes to my yard and also demands full access to my property. But instead of giving in to this psycho Karen, I decide to match crazy with crazy by getting my lawyer involved in this entire process, as I'm determined to make sure that this crazy behavior is stopped right here and right now. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I live live on a large property with a small house in the front. There are many small hot springs in the semi-rural mountain area that I live in, with many used by homeowners in their backyard. Many are piped indoors, but some have hot tubs built around them, and I happen to have an active one in my backyard near my left neighbor's house. And for the sake of the story, we'll call this the crazy neighbor, and trust me, they truly are. A small stream runs through the far backyards of the neighborhood, and it's used for gardens and little nature areas that everyone on the street enjoys. I have my small fruit and pepper garden watered by this stream, and I take really good care of it. For some visualization, it has a good amount of water flowing down, and everyone on the street uses it in some way. My right neighbor, who's a really chill dude who I will call Jay for the sake of the story, has small pools that he made that are fed by the stream, and 2 neighbors down has a garden similar to mine. Now with that bit of context out of the way, this is where things get really crazy. When I bought the house, the previous owners were sued by this crazy neighbor, with her claiming that the land was rightfully hers. I don't know the details of her argument, but it was thrown out as far as I know. The previous owners warned me about this crazy neighbor and told me not to engage with her family. When I moved in, the crazy neighbor's kids, all 3 of them, brought over some cookies and welcomed me into the neighborhood. I thought that the previous owner was exaggerating, as they seemed so sweet. So I invited the crazy neighbor and her family to a small barbecue, and they accepted. Well, the second that they got in the house, this neighbor started to explain the rules of the neighborhood. I thought it was pretty normal, like not to play loud music after 9, keep your car in the driveway to keep the street uncluttered, etc. Just some common sense rules, right? Well, that is until she got to some rules regarding the stream and the hot springs. She said that kids were allowed in all parts of the stream, even in private backyards, and that everyone could use each other's hot springs. And when I heard this, I was surprised because I have the only hot spring on the street. I then interrupted her and I told her that I wasn't comfortable with those, and she literally scoffed, saying that all neighbors were fine with it. I told her that I still wasn't comfortable with it, but she just ignored me, continuing with some questionable rules. The rest of the night was fine, but I felt like I wouldn't want to do that again. I talked to some neighbors across the next couple of days who all told me to steer clear of that crazy neighbor and that her rules were complete BS. I then went over to this crazy neighbor's house and I told her that I had talked to the other neighbors and that I was not comfortable with anyone being in my backyard without my permission. Well, she let out a scoff and said, okay. I then had lunch with Jay and he told me who this crazy neighbor was. She is a serial suer with her lawyer on speed dial to get whatever she wants. She had even sued a small chain pizza place in town into debt for having peanut oil on her pizza when she was allergic to it. But the pizza chain didn't even have peanut oil, and many people in the small community believe that she put it on it. But even still, they lost everything. So I decided not to ever talk to her or her family ever again. Well, a week later, I got home from the grocery store and I see the crazy neighbor's kids splashing in my hot spring tub. And for reference, it is outside, and usually it has a lid on it that 2 small kids would definitely not be able to take off as it is heavy and large. I then tell them that they're not allowed in it and to leave my yard immediately. But you know what? They stand their ground, telling me that their mom told them that it was theirs and that they could use it whenever they wanted. I told them that that's not true and to leave right now. Well, they finally do. And before you think that I'm a jerk for that, remember that pools and hot tubs are dangerous, and I don't want to be liable. I then headed back out to buy locks for my gates. When I got back, this crazy neighbor was now there, demanding why I kicked her kids out. She then tried to remind me of these rules, but I told her to leave immediately and that my security camera was recording. She then cursed at me for a minute or 2 and then she left. Now, I was bluffing as I did not have security cameras, but I did order them on Amazon that night. The next day was fine, where I replanted a lot of my plants from my apartment's balcony into the empty garden. And it was then that I noticed this crazy neighbor kept looking over the fence. For the following weeks, this neighbor complained about the trees in my yard, the color of the fence, what I'm doing with my stream, etc. Jay occasionally came over and told her to F off, but 3 weeks ago, I left for a couple of days for a friend's wedding, and I kept getting security alerts saying that there was motion in my backyard. And often it was her kids playing in my garden, trampling all of my peppers. I then texted Jay to tell them to get out. Now, if you're wondering why not call the police, well, they wouldn't do anything as they're just some kids. I had a suspicion that this neighbor was telling them to do these things, but I didn't have much evidence. On the drive back, I got a security alert that there was motion in my backyard. I didn't check as I was driving, but when I stopped for gas, I checked and saw this neighbor instructing a plumbing team to install piping from my hot spring into their yard. Well, I saved all the footage from that interaction, and I sent messages to Jay about it. Jay told them that they weren't allowed to be doing that, but since it wasn't his house, they didn't listen to him. I called the police and they went, but they had already installed the piping. In fact, this team was just leaving the gate with my broken lock on the ground when the police showed up. They said that they had been hired by the homeowner. The police waited for me to get there while talking to the team of workers, and I told them that I was the homeowner homeowner and that I hadn't paid them to do it. Well, at this point, they looked confused. I then went with the police into my backyard and I started ripping the unsecured piping out with a crowbar. This crazy neighbor then starts shrieking from her yard and puts her head over the fence and starts yelling that I'm destroying private property and that she would sue me. This neighbor then says that she has a contract with the owner of the house to literally have my hot spring water. Well, the police are now confused. She then shows a contract that read that she was paying me $2 per month in exchange for water. Now, of course, this neighbor won't give it to me so I can look at it, besides waving it around in the air. The police eventually leave and warn me not to destroy the piping, but I ripped up the small pipe that connects to the source as she's telling me that she'll see me in court. I contacted my lawyer and she said that this neighbor has no case as she didn't know my signature and it would be easy to prove that it was forged. And while I still haven't been served by this neighbor's lawyer, I do know that it will be soon. In the meantime, I've been sitting in the hot tub for long baths while talking to myself loudly about how much I love it. And sure, it's petty, but it made me feel good hearing the growls from across the fence. Now, this is the final thing that made me post here. My garden is wilting and dying at an unnatural rate. I heard a commotion come out of this neighbor's yard, and I peeked over and I saw her slowly pouring a massive jug of chemicals into the communal stream, which literally goes down to mine. I don't know if it was a plant killer or something like bleach, but it's rapidly destroying my plants. And I haven't eaten any of the fruit or peppers since I'm worried I might get sick. I think if I can get definitive proof of her doing it, I can maybe use it in court to prove how crazy she is. People swim in pools from the stream, so I warned Jay not to for the time being, and I told him to tell other people. I know one neighbor removed her garden from the soil and moved it away from the stream just in case it got down to hers. I'm unsure of what I should do next. I don't think I live in a two-party consent state for video recording as it doesn't list it as one on the PDF that I found. But honestly, regardless, I feel so annoyed by this that I just seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is some crazy stuff because the original poster has a lot of updates for it, and they literally go through everything from like damming up the stream at the very start of it, as well as testing the pH levels, and then eventually going back and forth between this crazy neighbor as well as getting lawyers involved. At one point, this psycho neighbor even takes out the original poster's like power, like they go to their house and like flip the breaker. It's like, dude, what is going on right now? This lady is out of her mind if she thinks she can act like this. And apparently this is someone in their 40s. Like, dude, you've got to be a special kind of crazy to be acting like that. I don't know if there's any like substances involved. I know the original poster doesn't mention that, but from the sounds of it, they're going through their lawyer and they're going through the proper steps to make sure this doesn't happen to anybody else ever again. Because apparently this has been going on for years. Can you imagine living next to someone like that? Like, I can't. I can't imagine my every waking moment dominated by that weirdo. Like, that would literally just drive me crazy. I couldn't do it. So good for the original poster for taking the steps necessary to protect themselves and their property, because this crazy neighbor truly is just that. They're absolutely insane, and you do not deserve to be treated like this in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mom is holding me responsible for the way my younger siblings dress, claiming that my younger siblings are copying me, and that I need to fundamentally change how I dress just to make her happy. Here's what's going on. I'm 22 years old, and I've been living at home while I finish my last 2 terms of nursing school that I have left. And trust me, it's been very rough here. I'm honestly frustrated. My mom constantly tells me what I wear isn't appropriate, and that my younger siblings are copying me. But I really don't think I dress badly or overly revealing. I usually wear maxi skirts, maxi dresses, and yes, I do wear crop tops sometimes, but my overall style leans more towards a boho aesthetic. What I wear fits me well, and while I may have a slight bit of appeal, I don't think I look provocative. I just happen to have curves that I can't exactly control. She told me that she'd prefer I wore my flowy blouses, looser pants, maxi skirts that aren't as fitted, crew neck tops, less jewelry, and less makeup. But the crazy part is that she wears super tight tops with cleavage out, tight clothing in general, and even shorts where her butt is literally hanging out. There was even a time where I wore a maxi tube dress, and she told me that I looked naked, but a couple weeks later, she wore the exact same style dress except hers was way shorter. On top of that, I've noticed some of my clothing has gone missing, and I've seen that she's been stealing and wearing my clothing. And because she's bigger than me, my clothes end up stretched out. I even found some of my things hidden in a bin. When I bring it up, she says stuff like, I'm grown, and reminds me that when she had me at 20, she had to change the way she dressed because she had a daughter watching her. But that makes no sense because she has 2 other daughters. But somehow I'm the one who has to change? And honestly, I don't think me changing my wardrobe is going to stop them from wanting to wear those things anyways. I think it's more about their friends and what's popular at school, but when I tell her that, she keeps blaming me, and it's really starting to piss me off. On top of all of that, she keeps making comments about me buying things for myself and how she couldn't do that because she had me. But I don't constantly spend money or splurge. I buy what I need or occasionally treat myself, and I keep up with my maintenance. And it's not like I don't help out around the house either. I always pitch in when needed. I'm just tired of being made out to be the bad influence when I'm really just trying to live my life. I'm minding my own business and not even doing anything extreme. So has anyone ever dealt with this kind of double standard? How do you deal with it without completely losing your mind? Because right now I don't know what to do. Dude, your mom's obnoxious. She's clearly like projecting in some kind of way because guess what? You're not responsible for your younger siblings. That is such a weird stretch in logic. It just honestly is super annoying. So no, you're not at fault here. You haven't done anything wrong. And if your mom's upset with the way your sisters are dressing, then she needs to start with herself and set a good example instead of trying to shift that blame over to you. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for breaking my friend's phone, all because he broke mine previously and never apologized for it? Because right now I feel like I made a mistake and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, a while ago, my friend and I were hanging out, and for the sake of the story, I'll call my friend Alex. Alex is not their real name. We were both in a bit of a stupid mood, and I guess the vibe was off, but nothing too major. At some point, I set my phone down on the table, and when I turned my back, Alex accidentally knocked my phone off the table, and it landed face first on the floor. The screen cracked, and I was pretty upset about it. Like, yeah, accidents happen, but I wasn't thrilled. But here's the thing. Alex didn't apologize or offer to help pay for it, and when I asked him if he was going to do anything about it, he kind of shrugged it off. I was like, okay, cool, whatever, but it felt pretty dismissive. Fast forward a few days, and we were hanging out again, and this time Alex's phone was on the same table. This time though, I didn't accidentally knock it off, but I definitely picked it up, slammed it on the floor, and watched the screen shatter. I was furious, and I felt like he needed to understand how annoying it was to have something important broken without even a basic apology. Well, now Alex is really mad at me, saying I went too far and that I should have just talked to him about it instead of escalating things. My other friends are divided, and some think that I had the right to get back at him, but others think that it was childish and that I should have just let it go. So am I the jerk for breaking his phone in return? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Oh my gosh, yeah, you're absolutely the jerk here. You seriously should have talked to him before throwing his phone on the ground like that. That is so inappropriate and incredibly rude. And I'm willing to bet you did way more damage to the phone than just cracking the screen. If it really bothered you that much that he cracked the screen by accident, and from the sounds of it, it really was not on purpose, unlike what you did, then you should have talked to him and said, hey man, this is really not cool. I need you to pay for this. Because seriously, two wrongs do not make a right here. And the fact that you felt it was okay to throw his phone on the ground, in my opinion, is completely insane. My manager decides to give me the runaround, all because I was trying to take 2 days off to go to my cousin's wedding. But after she said no, I decided to maliciously comply and get some serious revenge by taking all 23 of my unused PTO days all at once, leaving her to deal with all my work and all the fallout in the process. Here's what happened. So my new manager comes in loud, talking about structure and consistency. Suddenly, there's no work from home, no flexible hours, no swapping PTO. I asked to move 2 days for my cousin's wedding, and she goes on to say, sorry, we can't make exceptions for anyone. It would be unfair. Alright then, so I put in a request for all 23 of my unused PTO days straight through the end of the quarter, with no overlap and no coverage. And you know what? It got approved in like 10 minutes. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is fantastic. But after that, a couple days later, she's in full panic mode. She comes to me and says, wait, who's handling your workload? I say to her, I don't know. I assumed you had a plan. No exceptions, right? So she had to cover me and deal with all of the fallout. Stuff piled up, clients got pissy, and 2 people even quit. And I eventually came back to the new human resources memo. It said the following: managers can now approve flexible PTO on a case-by-case basis. So I guess it turns out fair looks different when you're the one getting screwed over. And my boss learned the hard way that she doesn't want to be the one on the receiving end of karma ever again. Oh man, I love this so much because this kind of stuff happens all the time when you've got a new manager who's like, oh yeah, we're gonna change things around here. And it's like, dude, this is never gonna end well. You're only gonna ruin everything for everybody else, and it's gonna be a pain in the neck. So good for you for getting this PTO and using all of it all at once, because the way she was treating you, in my opinion, was completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for booking my own Airbnb so that I don't have to sleep on a couch for 6 nights? Because after my aunt miscounted, I am now the odd one out, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my immediate and extended family have booked a vacation for later in the summer. My aunt who found this place knew the owner, and they got a great deal. And my aunt initially said there are 6 bedrooms. 1 room for her and my uncle, 1 room for my parents, 1 room for my cousin and her husband, 1 room for my other cousin and his wife, and 1 room for their kids who were both under 10 years old. Now, the last bedroom, you may be wondering, is where my aunt made an innocent mistake in miscounting. There are only 5 bedrooms. They told me that my boyfriend and I will have to sleep on a pull-out couch. I told my parents I would rather not sleep on a couch even if it does pull out. I also don't want to make my boyfriend sleep on the couch with me either, and that's literally for his own privacy. It's in the living room, which is in the middle of everything. I would rather not be woken up to people starting their day, and I would rather not have to change in the bathroom each and every time, or even leave all my stuff in the living room as well. I don't want to change in my parents' room either, because I know I would probably rush so that they would have their own privacy. I don't want to put my luggage in anyone else's room and fill their room with my clutter. The same goes for my boyfriend. I don't want to make him do all that either. My family has never had this big of a vacation all together in such a long time. I would love to be involved in whatnot, but I said I would rather not go if I can't have a room to myself, or I'll book my own place nearby, and I will pay for my part for the main house everyone is in regardless. My mom refused both options, as I will apparently ruin the trip if I don't stay under the same roof. If I get my own place to stay, it would solely be to sleep. I plan to be with my family at all other times and events. I don't care about the price of only getting an Airbnb just to sleep. I want my privacy. I haven't mentioned it to my cousins or anyone else yet that I'm considering getting my own place as close as possible though. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, this really is unfair for you, and I don't blame you for being pissed off. I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way. I would feel very slighted and very pissed off because I'm right there with you. I want my own space that I can do whatever I want with. So for them to be like, oh, you'll just sleep on the pull-out couch and no, you can't go anywhere else. It's like, no, that's not gonna happen. If I want to book my own Airbnb, I absolutely can do that and nobody's gonna tell me otherwise. So no, you would not be the jerk in my opinion, and I think if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. Am I the jerk for always dumping lemon juice all over my food? Because one girl I was on a trip with complained that when she tried to eat my leftovers, they were way too soaked in lemon juice to be edible, leaving me wondering if I'm the one at fault here, or if she should not have been sniffing around at my food in the first place. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I might be the jerk here, and I will accept my judgment regardless of what it really is. I grew up in a big household where all food and leftovers were fair game, even when I became old enough to buy my own food. To combat this, I started absolutely drowning my food in lemon juice. I could tolerate the taste and even grew to quite like it. So because of this, no one would touch my prepared foods or leftovers. It's a habit that I've carried well into my adulthood. I recently went on a large trip with some girlfriends. The Airbnb and excursions are evenly split. Food is paid for by ourselves because some people have specialty allergies. We have been going out to dinner the last few nights, and I always ask for extra lemons at the table. That way I can soak my food before eating. After a couple of days into the trip, one of the girls complained at breakfast that I was making food inedible to other people. Now this was news to me since the only food I was lemoning was my restaurant leftovers that I would eat the next day. Now what apparently had been happening since the first night was that one of the girls, namely the one who complained, stays up later than the rest of us and would eat or pick at any leftovers, disregarding the names on the containers. After trying my food on 2 separate occasions, she realized what I was doing and was pissed off. I said that she shouldn't be eating other people's foods that weren't communal, and she said to me, well, it's just how the rest of us feel. But no one else at the table said anything, and the breakfast was really tense. Later on, while getting ready to go out, the other girls told me that they didn't like their leftovers being eaten, and they were glad that I said something but didn't want tensions going forward. That night at dinner, I purposefully lemoned my food again. The complainer made an angry noise and stormed off to the bathroom. I didn't say anything, and the rest of our dinner continued normally without her, until she came back out sniffling before we left the restaurant. She even gave me dirty looks the entire ride back. I am exhausted by this nonsense drama, but maybe I am being the jerk here. So truly, am I at fault? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your friend's an idiot. She literally decided to start eating all of your food and be like, wow, this is not to my liking. And it's like, yeah, no kidding. You shouldn't be eating my food in the first place. And even your friends agree with you, but they're too much of a coward to speak up and say anything. So no, you're not the jerk at all. If you want to pour lemon juice all over your food, then guess what? That's your right. It's your food after all. And the fact that this one lady is trying to complain about it and be like, the rest of us don't like that. She's clearly trying to speak for everybody in the group, even though that is definitely not true. true. And that truly is super obnoxious. An entitled jerk treats me like garbage as I'm trying to show him my trailer that I'm trying to sell off. But instead of selling it to him, I decided to get some revenge by literally selling it to the next person at the exact same price, sticking it to this guy in a way that he will truly never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so one early spring, I decided to sell our travel trailer. It was only a few years old, it looked new inside and out, it was priced right, and it was the prime time of the year to sell. And I knew that it would be gone after a showing or two. The first family shows up after an odd phone call. The wife does all the talking, but made it clear that her husband, who we will call Glenn, makes the decisions in the family. She asked a ton of questions on the phone so that she could give the info over to Glenn. Glenn is in the room with her as this is all going on, and this is really weird, but whatever. So they roll in and I meet with Glenn. He tries to avoid eye contact and is trying to play a power game. The wife and kids are in love with the camper. They're polite and they're incredibly friendly, but Glenn is a massive jerk. As I answer his questions, he occasionally smirks. And at this point, I'm not interested in selling him dog crap fresh from my backyard, but I'm not lowering myself to his behavior. I give him the respect he deserves, taking the high road, since his poor wife and kids don't need to see me telling him to get lost. Eventually, Glenn says, "I'm gonna give you the price you're looking for, and we'll be back next weekend with a check." He then barks at his wife and kids to go get back in the car. I tell him that I did not agree to any price. Maybe it will still be around next weekend, maybe not. He then smirks again and drives away. But Glenn's price was exactly what I would have accepted from any potential buyer who was not a jerk. At that point, I was clear about one thing. Glenn will never end up with my camper. Fast forward, and the next day, a couple shows up to look at the trailer. They are slack-jawed at the price and condition and ask what I will take for it, as they can meet me later in the day with cash. So I offer to sell it to them for Glenn's price. A few hours later, I have a fat stack of $100 bills in hand, and they leave with the trailer thrilled with the deal. Well, next Friday comes along, and just as expected, Glenn's mistreated wife calls in. She tells me that they got a loan and want to pick the trailer up tomorrow, but I play dumb and I ask what she means. And after she explains it again, I drop the news. I say to her, "I'm so sorry, but it's gone." I told her that all Glenn had to do was respectfully offer the amount he told me I would be taking, and then leave a deposit check, and you would be picking up your camper tomorrow. I reminded her that she was standing right there when I told Glenn that we had not agreed to a price, and it was still very much for sale to whomever wanted it. Finally, I told her to make sure that Glenn knows that it's sold for his price the next day. And it's so sad because it seems like Glenn was a jerk, but I decided to be a bigger jerk just to get back at this entitled weirdo. I love this so much because I can't stand customers who act like this, regardless of the circumstance. They try to act like God and they pretend like, "Oh yeah, my word is law, and you're gonna take exactly what I give you." So good for you for standing your ground. I love the fact that you gave it to someone else for this guy's price, because his behavior, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by getting a tattoo of my mom in a bikini without my knowledge beforehand of what this tattoo actually meant, and I'm now feeling really dumb and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my dad passed away a few months ago. I was really close to him and I miss him a lot. My dad had quite a few tattoos, but one of them I remember dearly. It was this pinup style tattoo of a lady in a Hawaiian shirt and a coconut bra on his calf. I always liked that tattoo, even though it was pretty badly done. Most of the color vanished over the years, and I remember our dad letting us color in the tattoo with markers when he wanted to take a nap or just to keep us busy. My mom always disapproved, and I never understood why until now. One day, about 2 weeks after he passed away, I was walking around the city and came by a tattoo shop. One thing led to another, and I walked out of that shop with the same tattoo my dad had, the lady with a coconut bra. The artist did a great job at recreating the tattoo, and I was very happy. That is, until I got home and I wanted to show my mom. My aunt was there, who is my dad's sister, and started laughing like crazy. And my mom looked quite shocked, which is not the reaction I was expecting at all. I didn't understand what was happening until my aunt told me. She said to me, "Well, now you've got your mom on you forever in a skimpy outfit. Great choice." Well, long story short, my dad got this tattoo about a year after they started dating. She wore this outfit to a party, took a photo, and he got it tattooed a few weeks later. So I'm thinking to myself, great, this is just great. I was a bit confused because my mom has always had blonde hair, and the tattoo lady's got black hair, but apparently she had a short phase of dyeing her hair black for a few months. My mom always hated that tattoo, and they almost broke up because of it back then. And she made him swear that he's never gonna tell anyone the story behind that tattoo, hence why I don't know anything about it and I never asked about it. I thought this was a random tattoo that he got on one of his many vacations. And well, now I have a tattoo of my mom in a coconut bra. Great. My mom told me she doesn't mind and that it's kind of funny now, but I'm really thinking of getting it removed. At least it's on my rib cage so I can hide it for the time being. I really don't want to show the world my mom in a bikini, and at this point, I seriously am not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think this is nearly that big of a deal as you might think it is. Like, sure, this was some kind of conflict between your mom and dad, but I think for you, it means so much more. You did it with the intent of remembering your dad, but now I guess you get to remember your mom as well. So if I was in your shoes, I would just embrace it and be like, okay, I'm just gonna keep it. I would not get it removed and I would just go with it. Because sure, it is embarrassing to an extent, but honestly, I think this really can work out in your favor. Today, I'm wondering if I overreacted when I walked out of a job interview within 2 minutes, all because the interviewer was on their phone the entire time. Here's what went down. Okay, so I arrived for an interview for a senior role that I'm very qualified for in a mid-sized company, and this was a very well-presented place. Now, the interviewer, who would have been my direct senior, arrived 20 minutes late, barely greeted me, before asking me to tell me about myself while looking at their phone the entire time. They didn't make eye contact once. They just leaned back with very nonchalant body language. Not the best first impression, but I was very impressed with the job offering when the recruiter called. I stopped speaking out of disbelief, and when they looked up and said, "Sorry, that's so rude," and they said they were looking at my resume while I was speaking. But you know what? I doubled down, and I just said I find it incredibly rude to be on your phone during the interview. I said thank you, but we can definitely stop here. I then shook hands and then I left. Everything was cordial, but I was furious the entire way home. So seriously, I need to know, did I overreact in this situation? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made the right choice. Okay, in my opinion, I do not think you overreacted at all, because if I was at a job interview like this and they literally were not paying attention, I would probably get really pissed off as well. Like seriously, that is so inappropriate and there is no good excuse for that kind of behavior. Am I the jerk for not begging my boyfriend to still date me when he literally broke up with me over text messaging? Because he claims that I should have come back and begged for him to bring me back into his life. And now that I'm moving on and moving out of state, he's freaking out and becoming super emotional. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, my now ex-boyfriend of 2 years randomly texted me saying that he wasn't happy anymore. I called him right away and he said he would call me back, but he never did. When I tried again later, he ignored the call and just texted, "I'm done." For a couple of days, I wasn't even sure if he was seriously breaking up with me. I kept reaching out hoping that we could talk things through, but he ignored every text and call. Eventually, he told me that initial message was his way of ending things and that he thought it was obvious. Well, fast forward to yesterday and we met up because we agreed to try being friends. I started sharing my plans like moving out of state and traveling, and suddenly he just got emotional. He started crying, asking how I could just leave him like that. And I'm sitting here thinking, didn't you leave me? Then he said that he was still in love with me, that he wanted to be with me, and that when he sent that breakup text, I was supposed to chase after him, like show up at his place and beg. Apparently, ignoring me was part of some test that I was supposed to pass. I mean, I had no idea. I just thought he didn't care enough to answer his phone. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I'm still very confused. Dude, you dodged a train on this one. There's no way you're the jerk. If this guy really feels like he has to test you in this relationship, then trust me, it's probably not a relationship you want to be in. That's the sign of someone incredibly emotionally immature, and my God, you do not need that kind of energy in your life. Am I overreacting for canceling my mom's Mother's Day dinner after she told my 10-year-old son that he ruined her life? Here's what went down. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a single mom to my amazing son who we will call Liam for the sake of the story. His dad left when I was pregnant, and my mom was never exactly thrilled about me having a kid so young. She was always kind of passive-aggressive about it, but never outright cruel. Well, that is until now. I had been planning a nice Mother's Day dinner for her, like actually went all out, cleaned my apartment top to bottom, prepped her favorite lasagna from scratch, had Liam help me make a handmade card, and even bought her flowers, which is really hard considering the fact that I'm broke. She then came over at around 5:00 p.m. and all of it seemed fine. Then, during the dinner, out of nowhere, she says, and I quote, "You know what? If you had not had Liam, I could have retired already. I gave up so much because of your choices. He ruined everything." Liam just froze, like literally stopped chewing and looked down. I immediately told her that is completely out of line, but she just shrugged her shoulders and said, "Well, it's the truth. Someone had to say it." I told her that she needed to leave. She tried to laugh it off like I was being dramatic, but I insisted. I didn't yell and I didn't curse. I just calmly asked her to pack her things and go. After she left, I comforted my son the best that I could. He didn't cry, but I could tell that it crushed him. Now here's where I may be the jerk. My 2 brothers and my sister found out I canceled the rest of our Mother's Day plans as we were supposed to go to brunch the next day. They're now calling me sensitive and saying I blew it out of proportion and that mom is just old school. But I don't care if she's from the 1920s. You don't say that to a child, especially not one who's literally never done anything but love her. So truly, am I overreacting for canceling the celebration and asking her to leave? Or am I just finally done letting her get away with emotional landmines? What should I do? Holy crap, this lady is super toxic. She literally said that to a 10-year-old. This 10-year-old kid didn't ruin her life. This kid didn't even do anything to her. Like, all he's done is try to be kind and considerate, and the original poster's mom just goes off and treats him like garbage for no good reason. And you know what? That is so disappointing. So no, you did not overreact because your son did not deserve that kind of treatment. Would I be the jerk for wearing deodorant even though someone may be allergic to it, namely my teacher, who is apparently incredibly sensitive? Here's what's going on. Okay, so at the beginning of the second semester, we got a new teacher. This teacher said that she had a scent sensitivity and couldn't be around any perfumes or fragrances. Now, the people in my family have the same thing, so all my deodorant and my soaps are completely unscented. Well, I continue wearing this deodorant for months, and I sit in the front of the class. And you know what? This teacher has never seemed to react to it. Also, some of my friends put on scented products in the morning, and she never reacted to that, even though you could clearly smell it. Well, yesterday I had a gym class and it ran over. I had to change into my school uniform and had no time to apply the deodorant. The bell rang and I was late for class. I reapplied the deodorant in the bathroom and then I went to class. However, I forgot to zip up my backpack. When I was in class, the deodorant fell out and the teacher saw the deodorant. She asked if it was scented and I said no. She then yelled at me saying that she was having an allergic reaction. But here's the thing, she definitely didn't look like it. Her breathing didn't change, no watery eyes, no stuffy nose, nothing. And she just taught the class like normal. I felt bad about it and I emailed her asking about what deodorant she didn't react to so I could buy it. But instead, I got a response saying that was inappropriate. And now a part of me thinks that she's just completely faking it. So would I be the jerk if I just continued wearing it? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, 100% that teacher's faking it. She's clearly lying since you've been wearing the same deodorant the entire school year, and only when she saw the stuff was she like, oh man, I'm having a reaction. And it's like, dude, you are so insane. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and if I was in your shoes, I would continue wearing it no matter what, especially if there's no scent to be accounted for in your deodorant. Did I overreact for leaving my boyfriend at a restaurant after he told the waitress that I was just the salad girl? Because right now he's saying that I humiliated him, and at this point, I'm not sure if I made the wrong decision. Here's what's going on. So I've been dating my boyfriend for almost a year. For the most part, things have been okay, but he has a sarcastic sense of humor that sometimes makes me feel small. I'm pretty quiet and I don't eat meat, which is just a personal preference, by the way, and I guess I can be a bit shy in social settings. Anyways, last weekend we went out to dinner with a few of his coworkers, and I'd never met them before and I was already nervous. When the waitress came to take our orders, everyone was getting steaks or burgers, and I just asked for a salad. That's when my boyfriend laughed and said, "Don't mind her, she's just the salad girl. She doesn't eat real food." After this, his coworkers laughed. One even said something like, "Better get used to rabbit food if you're staying with him." Now, I laughed awkwardly, but I felt humiliated. I already get comments from my family about my eating habits, and the fact that he joined in front of strangers really hurt. When the waitress walked away, I told him quietly that what he said wasn't okay, but he just brushed it off and said that I was being sensitive and to not embarrass him in front of his friends. So I stood up, said, "Enjoy your real food," and then I left and I took the bus home. He texted me nonstop that night saying I overreacted, that I made him look bad, and that I embarrassed him. His friends apparently asked what was wrong with me. Now I'm second guessing myself. I didn't yell or cause a scene. I just left because I felt small and disrespected. And at this point, I don't know if I made the wrong decision. Okay, honestly, you didn't embarrass this guy because he literally embarrassed himself. Why would he call you out like that? Like, he does know that you're his girlfriend, right? There's no good excuse for this. This guy's just a massive jerk. And he even did this in front of his new friends. Like, seriously? That is so uncalled for. So if I was in your shoes and my significant other did that to me, I probably would walk out too, because that really is incredibly embarrassing. Am I the jerk for not agreeing to split the bill for a Mother's Day dinner after my sister dropped it on me all of a sudden that I was going to pay $175 towards a bill that she never informed me about before? Because right now I am super pissed off, and I seriously am not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my mother texted my oldest sister and I that we will be going to a restaurant on Friday, so I agreed and made sure to free up my evening. Friday comes along and our party had 11 people in it, with 2 families at the table, including my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins. Near the end of the dinner, my sister stood up and went away somewhere, and when she came back, she had a receipt in her hand, so my mom asked if that's the bill she was holding. My sister announced that she went to pay and that me and her were treating the table today for Mother's Day. And you know what? I was shocked because we never discussed just that. She then handed me the bill and asked me to e-transfer her half the total, which was about $175. Well, back at our place, I told my sister that I couldn't afford that with all the bills, and that I did not agree to split the bill beforehand. She then proceeded to say that I'm ungrateful for our mom, and that as the older children in the group, we need to foot the bill. For more context, since the end of last year, I no longer live with my parents. I am in my 20s and currently live with my oldest sister, mainly because she wanted to move out and couldn't afford paying the mortgage and bills by herself. So my parents made me move out with her, and at the time, I didn't realize how expensive that will be. My sister now has a 6-figure job, whereas I have a way lower income, and basically I'm living paycheck to paycheck. That is no excuse for me not to pay, but I wanted to point out our different financial realities. Well, I haven't paid her yet, but I'm honestly considering not doing it. And at this point, I don't know if this makes me the jerk, and I seriously am not sure what to do. Dude, there's no way I would ever pay that bill. If my sister pulled that on me in front of the entire family, well then guess what? She's gonna be embarrassed in front of the entire family, because that is super rude and you do not deserve that at all. My manager literally demanded that I follow the script exactly anytime a customer calls in. So I did just that, literally pissing off everybody in the process, resulting in their stupid policy getting reversed in just a month's time. Here's what went down. Okay, so I work in a call center for a regional bank, handling everything from balance inquiries to fraud alerts. The job isn't glamorous, but most of us were good at it because we knew how to actually talk to people and calm them down. One day, corporate decided we were going off message way too much. They rolled out a new script, and we were required to follow it word for word. No improvising, no adapting to the customer's tone or urgency. We just needed to read the script. We all knew this would go very badly. One-size-fits-all language doesn't work when someone's card just got stolen or their mortgage payment didn't go through. But management was adamant. If you deviate from the script, it's a write-up. So I just complied and I did it religiously. One day, a customer called, clearly panicked. Someone just charged $800 at Best Buy on my card and I'm at work. I didn't do it. Please cancel it now. Well, I took a deep breath and I replied exactly as the script instructed. I'm so sorry to hear that you're experiencing this inconvenience. I'd be happy to assist you with that today. Before we begin, may I ask how your day's been going so far? There was dead silence and then the customer said, seriously? So I continued. We strive to provide exceptional customer service with every call. Can I please get your 16-digit card number to better assist you? The guy then actually laughed and said, oh, I hope they're recording this call. And you know what? They were. And so were 3 others that week where I stuck to the script in these absurd situations. People locked out of online banking, someone whose check bounced, a woman crying because of a fraud lock on her account. Well, my supervisor pulled me into a room looking annoyed but also kind of sheepish. She said to me, we've had some feedback. You don't have to follow the script that strictly. But I responded innocently. I said, oh, I thought it was a write-up if we deviated. She then responded, just use your own judgment, okay? And then after that, the script was officially optional within a month. And I can tell you, after going through this for just a little bit, I probably enjoyed this process way too much. Oh man, I relate to this so much because anytime one of those automated messages, or when like the customer service agent is doing this crap, my blood starts to boil in a way that seriously is not healthy. So good for you for showing these people exactly why this would never work, because this is something that they absolutely need to get through their skulls. Am I the jerk for asking my in-laws not to bring their dog to our house when they come into town, as I find the entire situation incredibly frustrating? Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband and I had our first child a few years ago. His parents, who live several hours away, started coming to visit once every few months to see their grandchild. The first couple of times they came over, they would bring their dog with them called Rover. At first, this didn't bother me, but then I started noticing that Rover had some habits that I didn't resonate with. For example, he likes to lick people while everyone eats at the dinner table, and then he rubs his you-know-what on your feet. Eventually, I decided to speak to my husband about how this bothers me, and he agreed that we would bring it up to his parents. Well, all 4 of us sat down and had a conversation about it, and they reluctantly agreed not to bring Rover to our house anymore. Well, the next time they came over, I was on a business trip, so they immediately brought Rover over with them. I then overheard them talking on the Ring doorbell about how they refuse to follow my house rules because they're stupid. I then reached out to my husband to let him know this hurt my feelings, to which he encouraged me to speak with them about it directly. So I sat down with them and I explained how that made me feel. Well, they did not apologize and simply stated that Rover is very sweet, and I'm choosing a weird hill to die on. I ended up giving up because I just felt so defeated. Well, the next time they came to visit, Rover came along with them. I tried talking to my husband about it, but he shut down and became defensive and told me I was being overly difficult about it, so I just let it go. My in-laws are scheduled to come into town again this weekend, and when I asked about Rover, he confirmed that they will be bringing him him with them. I feel bothered by this and I want to bring it up again, but I'm afraid that he will just shut me down again. So am I the jerk for asking and wanting them to find other arrangements for their dog when they come to our house? Because right now I'm really frustrated and I don't know what to do. Oh man, this is so toxic. First of all, you really need to stick to your boundaries, otherwise they're gonna walk all over it. And that's exactly what the in-laws are doing. And the fact that your husband's not supporting you is so stupid in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk for asking about this, because honestly, the way they're bringing their dog around is really weird. An entitled Karen refuses to pay me for the site I built for her, literally screwing me out of thousands of dollars, all because she wanted to keep all the money for herself. So I decided to get some revenge by pretending to be the hacker that took down her website very recently, resulting in her paying me what she owes me for the work I did for her website, as she assumed that I was the hacker that took down her site, despite the fact that I definitely wasn't. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is basically about a freelance revenge story that happened about 8 years ago, and it was one of the first times I was ghosted without paying. Now, for a bit of context, I created a landing page for this lady that would promote her elven symbol jewelry store. It was a bunch of esoteric BS, but I was young and trying to break into copywriting, so I took any deal that I could. We agreed on a pure performance deal. So I got nothing up front, but we settled on a 5% performance fee. Her WordPress store was really small, and I was aiming to get about $800 out of it. But honestly, at some level, I would have been happy to just do it for practice and for my portfolio. Well, long story short, I wrote the landing page and I built it inside of her WordPress site. She started running some Facebook ads on it, and I was shocked to see that it was actually converting. On day 1, she got $120. On day 2, $200. On day 3, she got $150. And on day 4, $360. And this kept going and going, and by the end of the month, that landing page brought in about $6,000 in revenue. And I honestly thought that I struck gold. $300 in royalty in the first month? Like, are you kidding me? I was going to make bank from like 2 days of work. Well, predictably, she disappeared the moment I mentioned first invoice. 3 months go by and I get nothing. No replies to emails and calls go unanswered. She's still running ads. I mean, I can see all the sales coming in because I still have access to her website. Then out of nowhere, I get a panic message. My site is down. Are you doing this? Please stop. Now, for the record, I had nothing to do with her store going down. Probably just her cheap hosting. But after being ghosted for months while she made thousands off of my work, I knew this could be my one and only shot at getting paid. So you know what? I just played along. But I had to be careful. I couldn't just admit in writing that I'm the hacker and threaten her to pay up. Like, what if she went to the police and showed them the messages? No, I had to make her think that I was, but not admit to anything at the same time. So I replied. I said to her, sorry, but I'm not going to pay you until you pay me what you owe me. Well, this turned out to be the perfect level of vague. I never said that I hacked her site. I never threatened to keep it down. And instead, I just looked really suspicious. She then immediately called me and asked me what I want. I told her I still have access to her website and Google Analytics. I can see what she made off the landing page and I want what we agreed on. 5% of sales from that landing page. Well, it ended up being just shy of $1,500. After that, she then said she'll take care of it. We got off the call and I sent her the final invoice. And right then she wired the money immediately. She then messaged me with a payment confirmation from her bank and asked me to enable her website. So in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, it worked. I was shaking when I typed back, but I replied by saying, I had nothing to do with your website crashing. You should talk to your hosting provider. After that, I never heard from her again, but I'm honestly just so glad that I ended up getting paid. Dude, I love this so much. This is like the best kind of revenge you ever want to get because this Karen deserved this. The second anybody like doesn't pay someone for their work on time, like that for me marks you as a bad person right then and there. Like across the board, you're a garbage human being if you don't pay people for their work. Whether that's building out a website or like, I don't know, lawn care or whatever it is. Just pay people what you promised them. Like seriously. And you agreed to give basically the original poster some royalties, so you gotta do that. So seriously, good for the original poster for tricking them into paying you. Like that is a brilliant way to get your money back because chances are this Karen probably wasn't even paying for hosting or something like that. Because based on their history, I wouldn't be surprised if they were like skimping on all of that from the very beginning. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My idiotic supervisor says that if I'm even 5 minutes late to work, then I should not even bother showing up in the first place. So I decided to maliciously comply, eventually leading to this guy looking like a complete moron. Here's how it went down. Okay, I used to have this super chill supervisor who understood that traffic happens, life happens, as long as we get the work done. Then we got a new guy who was the corporate type and obsessed with punctuality culture. Well, the first week he calls me into his office. He says to me, "You've been 5 to 10 minutes late a few times. That won't fly anymore. If you're late again, don't even bother coming in at all." I then asked if we could talk about adjusting my shift slightly, as I work late most most days anyway. He then cuts me off and says, "We have to maintain standards, no exceptions." So I thought to myself, okay then. Next Monday I hit traffic and the GPS says I'll be 12 minutes late. So I just didn't go in. I took the day and I sent an email to him. "I'm just following your guidance. Late again, so I won't be coming in." Well, I didn't get a reply. Fast forward and I did the same thing again on Thursday. It was the same deal with a light traffic delay and I decided to stay home. Human Resources finally emails me like, "Are you planning to return to work?" And I forwarded them his exact words with no edits. Suddenly, there's a clarification meeting, and apparently the policy was miscommunicated. I was then welcomed back, and minor delays will now be handled with understanding. Because I guess at the end of the day, he didn't expect me to follow his instructions that well, which led to him looking like a complete moron. I love this so much because my God, I can't stand managers like this. They're idiotic, they're super obsessive, and they make everybody else's lives a complete nightmare. So good for you for sticking it to this guy in a way that he will truly never forget. An entitled customer mouths off at my assistant manager, treating him like garbage in a way that was truly unacceptable. So my assistant manager got revenge by humiliating them in a way that they are truly not expecting. Here's how it went down. So this was from many years ago when I was a retail salesperson in a jewelry store in a shopping mall. This really did happen and it's one of my favorite memories. Our assistant manager, who we'll call Jerry for the sake of the story, sold a really fancy crystal set to a couple who was going to give it as a wedding gift. I was within earshot during most of the transaction, which took a long time and featured the husband being a jerk to Jerry the entire time. We're talking condescending, demanding, demeaning, pretty much the works. But Jerry was a total professional. He kept his cool and remained cheerful and obliging during all of the mistreatment he was receiving. At the end of the transaction, he asked them if they would like some complimentary gift wrapping. The customer agreed, and so Jerry took the box into the back room and did a spectacular wrapping job. He went all out with luxury ribbons, silver metallic textured paper, literally the works. So the customer left, Jerry smiled and then waved goodbye. When they were gone, he was still smiling, and I asked why he was so cheerful after that experience. Jerry said to me, "Oh, it's fine," and held up the price tag and smiled. The crystal set had cost around $150, which back in my day was about $500 in total. And while in the back room wrapping the gift, Jerry had removed the original price tag, but then stuck new ones on the bottom of each one, something like maybe $17 on each one, even going as low as $3. Then he wrapped them up all nice and pretty. He then said that the beauty of all of this is that they will never know, and then gave a satisfied laugh knowing that these people were about to look incredibly stupid. Oh man, I love this so much because you know for a fact they did not expect that the price is going to be on the bottom of it, let alone the wrong price, making them look incredibly cheap. Like the bride and groom eventually are going to be like, "Oh wow, look at these crystal glasses that we got. Wait a second, this is really cheap glass. What were they doing?" Whereas everybody else probably got them something like really fancy and worth their while. So seriously, good for Jerry. We need more Jerrys in the world, especially in the workforce, because customers like this absolutely deserve to get punished, especially if they're going to be condescending. Am I the jerk for leaving dinner with my parents early after they called my girlfriend disgusting for kissing me on the cheek? Because right now they're saying that I need to apologize for leaving early, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been a lurker here for a while, but I now have a situation that I need to know if I'm wrong about. I'm a 32-year-old female and I've been dating my girlfriend, who I will call Ruby, for about 10 months now. She is 48 years old, and yes, I'm aware of our age gap. I'm a fully grown woman, I can make my own choices, and Ruby treats me really well. She's been the first in a long string of really awful exes to do so. She is honestly an absolute angel. Now, for some more context, my parents and I have never really been close, as they honestly just didn't really care about me as a kid. I was always being handed off to nannies and ignored when I tried to play with them. They would always leave me behind with said nannies when they went on business trips and vacations. And then when I got older, they would just leave me all alone. It was a terrible way to grow up, but I've moved on from it. I can't let my childhood define my entire life. And once I moved out, we rarely talk besides holidays and birthdays. Anyways, in the past couple of years, my parents have started reaching out more and trying to connect. I was a little weary at first, as I thought maybe they wanted something from me, but after feeling them out for a bit, I think they just feel bad for how they ignored me when I was young. I slowly started letting them into my life, and a few months ago, I told them about Ruby. They immediately jumped into telling me how I'm too young to be dating someone so old, and so on and so forth. But I shut that down immediately. I told them they don't get to say stuff like that to me ever. They can either support me after all the stuff they pulled, or they can go away. And you know what? That seemed to shut them up. Fast forward to last night, where me, Ruby, and my parents all had dinner together. It was their first time meeting her, and it was going smoothly up until Ruby gave me a peck on the lips before going to the bathroom. The second she was out of earshot, my mom just blurted out something like, "Oh, Ruby just absolutely disgusts us. She is disgusting." Now, I didn't say anything, but I was just so stunned as they both started to explain that they can't accept this relationship or some other BS like that. I mean, I barely remember. All I I could hear was static. I was so pissed off. I flagged down our waitress, told my parents that we were leaving, and I paid the bill as we all sat in awkward silence. And it's like, I guess they didn't want to embarrass themselves in front of the waitress? I don't even know. By then, Ruby was back and she was totally confused. I explained everything in the cab ride home, and honestly, I started tearing up a bit. I was finally starting to think I actually had parents, but then they go and say awful stuff like that. Ruby was pretty shocked and comforted me as best as she could. Now, my parents have been calling me and texting me, scolding me for leaving like that, and saying that they just want me to date someone right for me. They even looped a couple aunts and uncles in, who never even really give a crap about me in the first place, and have them telling me to answer my parents and apologize. So with all that in mind, I really just need to know, am I the jerk in this situation for walking out? Because right now I'm still incredibly upset. Okay, yeah, there's no way you're at fault here. This is so unbelievably disgusting, the fact that your parents did this to you. Because honestly, your girlfriend didn't do anything wrong. She literally just kissed you on the cheek before she went to the bathroom. So no, you're not the jerk because the way they're treating you is completely out of line. A group of entitled jerks decide to be way too loud at a graduation ceremony for my daughter. So me and my family decided to get some revenge on them by literally returning the favor and ruining their experience as well. Here's how we did it. So I was at a college graduation yesterday with two sons to watch our daughter graduate. There were two young women behind us in the bleachers, and they were talking nonstop and not quietly. I turned around and I asked them nicely if they could be quieter so we could actually hear the speakers, and this was before the actual announcement of names and degrees. And one of the women behind us said something like, "Oh, they're just talking for now. It's not even the graduation, so we can talk as much as we want to." Well, needless to say, they did not quiet down, and I believe they stepped it up just to annoy me. During their loud conversations, we learned the first name of their brother, who we will call Ray for the sake of the story, and with a quick glance at the program, we located the only graduate named Ray, as well as the name of the graduate to be announced before him. My sons were texting, including me, and they plotted their revenge, all silently via texting back and forth, especially once we learned they were going to record their brother's walk. One of the women behind us was readying her phone to record the announcement of her brother's name and his walk across the stage to shake hands with a couple of dignitaries. When they announced the person before Ray, all three of us stood up, waving our arms and screaming as loudly as we could. And you know what? We continued during that person's announcement and then during Ray's. She then replayed it on her phone, but all you could hear once we started yelling was our yells. No Ray announcement at all, nor did she capture video of him walking across the stage. We had blocked that out by standing and waving. Now, we learned this from her comments during a couple replays on her phone behind us, and some choice words along with it. Now, thankfully, my wife was seated in the front row of the stage and she recorded our daughter's walk, so these idiots had no chance to get even. Yeah, seriously, when you're at a graduation, there's no reason to act like that. Like, just be quiet and wait your turn. You're literally just trying to watch someone graduate. Like, this is a big deal. You don't want to miss it, and you don't want someone talking the entire time. So honestly, this level of revenge kind of makes sense to me, and I think I would have done the same thing, especially if the people behind me were being obnoxious like the people in this story. My manager changed an annoying policy that mostly affects me, so I decided to maliciously comply, effectively showing him how dumb it truly is. Here's how it went down. Okay, so this happened mid-2022. I was hired almost fully remotely at my current job as a systems engineer, and this was agreed upon by human resources and the hiring director. Part of my job is on-site data center support. For months, I didn't have to do anything because nothing really came up, but as time went on, I did more data center work, which is not a big deal because two of them are close to me by car. Fast forward to October of 2023, and due to client requirements, daily IDF and MDF checks were required again. It was split up amongst all the engineering teams, with me being the lucky one to having to do it on Mondays. My main coworker, who's now my team lead, was over an hour away because the train to his area was down, but with the express train and bus, I could get there in about an hour. During the meeting, the manager stated to me, "You don't have to stay in the office all day. This was approved by the director and you could just go in, do the checks, and leave when you want." So I think to myself, great. I would go in, sign into work while on the train and bus, do the checks and anything else I might need to do, and then go straight home. And this went on for well over a year. Well, a couple of months ago, my manager stated that if we go in, we have to stay in for the rest of the day. And he didn't even have the audacity to tell us. My manager lead had to tell us during a meeting, and he thought it was complete BS as well. I don't know the reasoning, but it's such a waste of time and worse for my work. But then I realized I could go in later in the day and then leave when I sign off for work at 3:30 p.m. Now I leave for the 12:30 p.m. train to get to the office by 2, because it's a 90-minute commute. I do the checks and anything else that might need to be done, and then I leave by 3:30. One afternoon, my manager calls me and I mentioned that I was on the train. He then asked me, "Okay, did you start late today?" And I responded by saying, "No, I'm just going to the office for the checks like every Monday." Well, he didn't respond, knowing that I am still technically listening to his stupid requirement. My team lead laughed when I told told him that, because honestly, this policy was incredibly stupid. Okay, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I can't stand managers who make up policies that don't make any sense. And this story is a fantastic example of that. Like literally, they're just wasting the original poster's time. So good for you for like maliciously complying in this story, because your manager really needed to have it illustrated that what they're expecting you to do is incredibly stupid. Am I the jerk for kicking a family out of our condominium pool just because they don't live here and they literally are not residents of our condominium? Because right now I kind of feel bad and I'm not sure if I made a big mistake. Here's how it went down. Okay, so I was enjoying my coffee poolside at our condominium on a Sunday morning. A mother and her two kids arrived who were clearly not residents because they drove up with all of their pool stuff in their car and changed into their bathing suits in the bathroom. A resident, on the other hand, would just walk here, as the association isn't that big, and would have changed in their own unit. It's been almost 100 degrees for a week. The kids jumped in the pool and started splashing around, having a great time. And yeah, they were noisy, but they were just being kids. I started thinking about what if all the kids from the surrounding apartment buildings started using our pool? Well, it's at this moment I might be the jerk, because I pointed out the sign that said residents only, and I then made them leave. Because at the end of the day, they weren't really harming anything. The kids were so disappointed that I made them leave that they started crying. It has been so hot that I'm sure being in the pool was a great relief. But if I'm being completely honest, we pay for the pool. Plus, if they got injured, they would sue the condo association. If word got out that anyone can swim in our pool, then anyone would. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because honestly, I feel like I made a mistake. So in my opinion, I don't think you're totally the jerk, but I don't think this is something you should ever try to police ever again. And instead, I would like report this to like the association in charge of that place. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. It is residents only, and you don't want anybody showing up and swimming in the pool, especially if you've got skin in the game where you're like, look, I pay for it. This is something I literally put my money into to make sure it's maintained. Like, I can understand that aspect of it, but I also think this is something someone else should handle. So no, you're not the jerk for kicking them out, but also this should never have to come from you ever again. An entitled Karen neighbor decided to leave a note on my car, even though I parked my car legally on the street in front of her house, as she claimed that I had no right to do so and that I was blocking traffic, even though I definitely wasn't. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I got a note on my car that said something absolutely ridiculous. It said the following: please consider when you have no intention of going out for so far 3 days. By parking like this, you make it incredibly difficult for people to turn around. Our elderly relatives visit me on the weekend, and they were unable to park outside of our house. Please be considerate, as you don't even live down this road. So after getting this message, I went and I talked to the lady and I explained. I said to her that I lived around the corner on the walkway attached to the road, and that there was plenty of space for turning, at least a car and a half wide. I also told her I got sick and was in bed with a vomit virus for like 2 days. I said that she has space on her driveway for 2 cars if she backs one up into the garage, but apparently none of that mattered to her. It's just too much to be parking on the public road in front of someone's houses on the weekend. Also, apparently it's my fault for choosing to live in a house on a walkway and no driveway. She didn't seem to like when I informed her that I didn't have much of a choice in what house my parents bought before I was born. I honestly just went to talk to her, assuming it was a case of some kind of misunderstanding. If she was polite to me, I would have offered to give her a way to contact me to move my car next time if I could. But entitled Karens like this think they own the public road, so instead, this entitled Karen gets absolutely nothing from me. Yeah, people like this are so weird. You can literally park wherever you want. It's a public road. So yeah, that Karen was completely out of line, and honestly, I hope you park in front of her house some more, because you literally have every right to do so. My entitled sister hosted a beach trip for the entire family, but after I told her that she couldn't have my favorite swimsuit, she freaked out and left early, refusing to pay for a large portion of the bill, leaving the rest of us stuck having to pay off the balance. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened really recently. My sister, who we will call Jay, and her husband organized and fully sponsored a 2-day family beach trip as their treat before flying back to the United Kingdom. Day 1 was perfect. It was amazing. Everyone was vibing and super chill. There was great food and lots of laughs. It's the kind of day where you wish you could bottle it up, where everyone is enjoying the time together. But then day 2 came around. Jay woke up in a good mood, same as everybody else. And then a few hours in, all of us sisters decided to go swimming. Now, before the trip, Jay asked if she could borrow her favorite swimsuit of mine. I forgot to pack that one, but I did bring an extra and I offered it to her. And she said that was totally fine until she saw the new swimsuit I was wearing, and suddenly she wanted that one instead. Well, I told her no, because she already had the extra suit that I bought for her, and she had been okay with it. I thought it was no big deal, so I went outside to take some pictures. Well, not long after, our older sister told me that Jay and her husband were suddenly leaving early. Now, what's the reason, you might be wondering? They said that they had to prepare their things for the United Kingdom trip, which was really weird because that definitely wasn't the plan. They even brought our brother and cousin with them since they all came in the same car, so it kind of messed up a lot for the rest of us. But here's the real kicker. They left us with a huge chunk of the resort bill unpaid, plus the car gas expenses that were originally covered by them. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, so much for our treat. Clearly that was not the case. So yeah, what started as a sweet farewell trip turned into a passive-aggressive exit, all because I wouldn't give up my swimsuit. And at the end of it, it ended with a surprise bill, which for me just proves once and for all that my sister is super entitled, because this behavior is completely uncalled for. Oh man, talk about a one-way trip to never trusting your sister ever again. Because if she could do this once, my god, she could absolutely do this again in a heartbeat. What in the world was she thinking, dude? She literally planned a 2-day trip with a family, didn't get what she wanted with one single swimsuit, and was like, okay, I'm gonna leave you with some bills to pay for. This is no longer my treat. I need to get ready for the United Kingdom. It's like, what are you talking about? That is absolutely crazy talk. Like, I know for a fact I would never trust them in any capacity ever again. She would get put on that secret list that pretty much all of us have, like, let's be honest. And it's a list of people where we're like, okay, these people cannot be trusted. You can't give them any information, and there's no way you can give them money. Because that's where the sister belongs. She belongs like right in the middle of that list, because this is unbelievable behavior. She has betrayed the entire family, and that is honestly an understatement. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.